And I think one day, I don't remember how, but I think Zachary came up to me, like Nick Fury, and he's like, I want to talk to you about a team.
Because I would have formed a team.
Because he's like, my brother knows how to he's making a movie or something. Do you want to be in it? Because at the time I was in film school and I would like act and stuff.
All right, guys, thank you so much for coming to the Wizard's Cut podcast. So thank you so much for being here and talk about your award-winning short film, She'll Come Back.
I'll go look for her.
What was your position, who you are, a little bit about you. So let's start with Zach.
Yeah, so my name is Zachary, and for this film in particular and for Ariel films in general, I am the producer.
My name is Aaron. For this film, She'll Come Back, I was the director, the DP, and the editor.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Gerald. I was the writer, the director, the other co-director as well. And yeah, that's what I did, yeah. Yeah, just generally good vibes.
So I want to know a little bit about your friendship. I know, of course, the audience they don't know, but you guys are brothers. And
Correct.
how did you guys actually met Gerald?
Yeah, so I've known Gerald for a little while now. I met him in high school, and he was about a year apart from me. And we were kind of just hanging out in just very, like, friendship based settings. I mean that
see him around.
Yeah, mainly to mention that we didn't really talk about film for a long time. Like the film aspect came with the two of them actually. Funny enough,
It's actually really true.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, man. So with Gerald, me and Zach have been, best friends for a long time. We go way back. But with Gerald, I'm the youngest of us, and Gerald and Zach were 3 grades above me, and I remember seeing him in friend groups and stuff like that whenever I'd hang out with Zach's friends, but never in school or anything. And I only started developing a relationship with him once Zach told me, hey, you remember Gerald? He's actually into film right now, and he goes to Broward College in the film program. And I was like, that's incredible. Let's link up. And we linked up, and dude, it just clicked from there. We have a great banter together, and we blend well with each other.
Dude,
So you cannot get rid of him.
Can't get rid of him. Can't get rid of him. I'm a thorn in his back.
Can you give me a ride home?
I'll call you an Uber.
Now
I
tell
got
me
you.
your version.
Dude, that was like completely false. We met at Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh.
I met him last week. Like it's a stunt double that you see like at the festivals and all that. Like I barely know these guys. No, that pretty much tracks. I remember we worked at the ice cream store together, Cold Stone.
Oh,
and
I completely forgot about Cold
he worked
Stone.
there briefly. He worked at a Cold Stone very briefly.
Oh my god.
I think that was the first time you ever sent me the script for Methods of Mortal Men.
That is so true.
And I was like, I can't make this. I'm still making.
What's Methods of Mortal Men?
It was you sent me the scene of like that was the first movie we did for the real fans. You sent me the scene of the cab driver and Phoenix. I remember reading it and I was like, I can't. I was making ice cream, dude. I can't. Whatever. And
Wow.
I think one day, I don't remember how, but I think Zachary came up to me, like Nick Fury, and he's like, I want to talk to you about a team.
I would have formed a team.
Because he's like, my brother knows how to he's making a movie or something. Do you want to be in it? Because at the time I was in film school and I would like act and stuff. And in my mind I was like, nah, I don't just want to be in it. I want to produce it. Because, I was like ambitious. And yeah, we met then. That was in like 2019. And then we didn't get to making it. I don't know. I guess something happened around that time, 2019 to 2021. And yeah, and then that was like the first time I had ever like made a movie on my own, like outside of film school. And it was pretty cool. I missed those days. I was like excited to like print out notices that we were filming.
Yes.
And putting them.
I remember that was one of
that.
the first things that you did as producer. Yeah, when we were talking about trying to go location scouting and find locations in Miami that we're gonna shoot. Gerald.
Nightmare.
Yeah, Gerald was we found a spot that we liked, and Gerald put down papers and stuff on like on poles and everything about that. Hey, there's gonna be a film being shot here on this date. Like I don't know, just be aware. I don't remember what really our goal was for that. It's not like we had much experience.
We're just making it up.
We're just making it all up as we go.
Like the question I was about to ask, like, how about your experience? Like, do you guys already have like previous experience?
Dude, I would love to talk about methods and that whole kind of thing.
Yeah. So Gerald referenced this movie called Methods of Mortal Men, and that was basically our first film. And to talk a little bit about the experience we had going into that, we had none. Like Aaron, I'm pretty sure he wrote the script, which was like 30 pages or something close to that. When you were like, what was it, 16 or 17?
Yeah, I wrote the first scene, the opening scene of Methods of Mortal Men when I was 16. It was kind of just something that I saw visually and I wanted to put it down. And it wasn't until around a year or two later that I started to get really, really inspired and really passionate. And I'm like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I kind of got out of a big friend group that I was in. My life shifted a lot going into like 9th grade or 10th grade of high school, and I just started to have this big ambition, and I'm like, you know what, I think I can really do this. So I had the help of my brother Zach, and we wrote the script. I'd like to think that it was a collaborative effort because you helped me out with that. But I remember, the most experience, like all of the experience that I had was simply just learning it on my own, YouTube University is what it was, I remember being in gym class every morning and just like being in the corner on my phone watching Directors Roundtable just over and over, taking notes, writing down notes, just watching YouTube videos about writing, YouTube videos about directing. And it wasn't homework, it wasn't education, like it was fun to me. It was as if you put on a TV show while you're eating your breakfast in the morning. That was what it was for me. It was the thing driving me in that moment.
Yeah, it always kind of felt like we were kind of, from the outside, I bet it would look like we would know what we were doing. Yeah. But really, we were kind of learning in the moment. Yeah. Like, oh, this isn't how you do this. This is how you're supposed to do this. Okay, we do that, and then you follow that trail. We hit the next thing. Oh, we don't know what to do. Let's look up, like, kind of just looking up to the people who inspired us as filmmakers prior, and finding any interviews we can of them talking about that particular thing, and then doing that. Yeah. And just kind of making it up as we go, which is kind of what you're supposed to do.
We're completely faking it until we made it, and we still haven't made it. We're continuously doing that.
Yeah, that's always what it is.
But you know what I think that we do really good as a team is that we're really good at following our gut. If we feel like this thing that we're trying to do is correct, even though we have no idea if what we're doing is the right way to do it, we have two people to reassure us of that, so that's why it's so important to do this with people that you trust. I can see how it would be so overwhelmingly lonely, doing it by yourself, because you don't have that reassurance of somebody next to you being like, you know what, that's a good idea, let's do that, and we're in it together, going into the war together.
Yeah, it's true. So that's part of why you guys work very well as a team, right?
I think so too.
So how about you, Gerald? How do you fell in love with filmmaking?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would always watch movies like as a kid, because I wasn't born here. Don't tell the government, but so like for a very big portion of my life, like I didn't understand what anyone was saying, but I would understand like the TV screen and all that, and that's kind of like where I developed like an intuition or like a familiarity with like visual language. But it wasn't until like high school where I was like asking myself like what am I gonna do, that like I kind of wanted to pursue it. I think I saw Kevin Smith speak. He's the guy who did Clerks. I saw him, he did these like Q&As. They were like stand-up specials almost. And that was like the first time I ever saw like a normal person talk about movies. I think up until that point, I had like a preconceived notion of like what a director was. And I see him talking, it's like, oh, he's like a normal guy. Yeah. And that sounds like a lot of fun. That's just, it feels real in my head now. Like I could do what he did. That's probably what I'll go do.
Yeah, you didn't have to change your perspective, being like, can I be this person, this ultra professional person like a filmmaker is? No, you brought the idea of what a filmmaker is down to your level.
Precisely.
Yeah. You're like, no, look, there can be a guy that is doing all this great work, and he is a normal guy just like
Such
me.
a normal guy, and it's very true. Like in the industry or anywhere in life, I mean, like the idea of professionalism is like an illusion.
It is a complete illusion.
Yeah, it's
nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
No, nobody. You'd be surprised how much is made up and how much you're capable of, and that's
And that's why you get farthest by just being a good person, You know, you don't need to. Well, talent is a big thing. But talent doesn't really open doors for you. It's how well you are to collaborate with people and be a guy that people want to continue working with. The thing is that the projects that we work on, we have lots of people that we can bring on board, and because they're great talents and stuff. But we choose the people based off of how well we know that we can work with them, and how well the attitude that they'll bring on set, if they'll mesh well with everybody else there. That is the biggest thing to us,
the energy,
Yes, completely,
I was talking to a filmmaker, like the best thing you can do on a set and collaborating with other filmmakers is being honest. If you feel like something is wrong, or you don't feel like you don't feel the vibe, or you feel like someone offended, you just talk to the person and say, hey, I feel offended by what you say. Because being honest open the doors to actually have a better work environment on a film set.
I think so too, man. That's something that's the reason why we love working with you as well, man. You know how to be honest and not have somebody feel offended in any way about that. Like once you feel something, you'll say it, and that's the reason why we love working with you.
Thank you. I feel the same way. Like all of you guys are so different, and I can just choose the infinite stones of producing and DP and writing and ideas here.
I know.
The Avengers.
I think it's true, man. Like we're very similar in our styles and our taste and stuff, but we are completely different with how we execute filmmaking and how we execute our careers as filmmakers, and I think that's what makes us so good.
So execute, it gives me when you say the work, instantly I think about you, because you're a producer now, right? So you're working as a producer, but I met you as a writer. So tell me a bit about your transition, or was something that you were doing like at the same time.
I think my passion for filmmaking comes from two places. One is the construction of story, and storytelling in general. That's where a lot of my passion lies. But my second passion within filmmaking that I feel is actually really coming to the forefront is helping them make films. I've said this before, but there's no chance I would ever do this if I wasn't doing it with them.
Oh, wow.
That's where a lot of my excitement comes from, is being able to talk to them about the ideas that they have, and workshop with them. And I understand how talented they are, but also there seems to be this understanding between the three of us as, what we're trying to do is make the movies that we want to see. Yeah. And the thing is whenever Gerald brings up an idea, or whenever Aaron brings up an idea, that's a new movie that I want to see. Mm-hmm. And whenever we determine, okay, this is going to be our next project, there's an equal understanding between us as to how it is that we each can contribute. And I just found that as a producer, that's where I fit best in terms of how we can get the movie to be made. I think with writing, that's such a collaborative thing. I think all three of us are writers. So there doesn't need to be one person who does it on their own. Although with certain ideas, you naturally will kind of gravitate towards a particular individual for a particular story. That's kind of what happens. It's very collaborative. It's very lonely sometimes, so we negate that with the three of us being involved. But as a producer, I think I just found my little niche, and also I find the things that they find boring pretty fun to do sometimes, like working with money, or talking to crew, or talking to actors ahead of time, talking to location owners, all that, all those technical, business like things. I think it just comes kind of naturally to me. And so I find joy out of understanding that I make it easier for us to execute it. Yeah.
I like to think that he's the brain of Ariel, I'm the eyes of Ariel, and he's the mouth of Ariel. Wow. You know what I mean? Okay. And together we make a face. Because he like whatever we're feeling, whatever we want to do, he knows how to communicate it to people, to whether it be getting funding, whether it be getting a location, you know what I mean, getting rights, or just like just anything having to connect with people and like logistics. He knows how to talk to them.
And how about Gerald?
He's great with words.
I
can't talk.
He's the brain. I mean, his mind, his thoughts, his ideas. This guy. See, the thing is about Gerald, man, is he can disappear for 2 weeks, and it's like, hey, what have you been doing? And he comes over with a script that he's just been working on. He's been a little hermit in his room, and he pops it on the table, and we're like, well, fucking hell, like, you know what I mean? We had to work together and able to come up with something like that. But his brain, I think that's a big strong suit of us.
Perfect. So I think we cover a little bit of each of you, right? Like if I'm missing any, question or anything you guys would like to say.
One thing I would like to kind of point out is Aaron has in with particular projects and with a lot of our projects, I think something that is usually the first thing that's noticed is there seems to be a natural heightened quality that kind of comes off. That's how I would like to view it. I think also as a producer, it's fun because I get to take an outside approach. I get to take a step outside of what's being created and kind of view it from the outside in. And I think with Gerald having such a skill with writing and storytelling in general that all of us can kind of contribute to, but for him, like Aaron mentioned, he'll just go off and he'll craft these things in a way that we never could have. I think Aaron just has such a good understanding of visual storytelling, and that's why he naturally is really great at being a DP for us. Kind of like our go-to cinematographer is not necessarily how well he works a camera. That's great too. Not necessarily how great he, sets up the lights and understands these plots, but just understands what needs to happen in order for the story to be visually satisfying as a vessel for the story itself. Yeah, so I did want to point that out.
Thank you, man. And I think cinematography is a good topic of discussion because I think a lot of people get cinematography wrong. It's not about the equipment, it's not about the technical aspects. Cinematography is executing those technical aspects, but cinematography, their main job is to work with the director and being able to know like what serves the story, have an understanding of what the story and what the feeling is. And the feeling changes in every scene. It changes in every 3 seconds of a film. In general, it's like when Gerald writes something, he has feelings that are evoked in that story. When someone's directing it, they're trying to execute that. And the cinematographer knows how to make an audience feel those feelings in what they are seeing every second, and it's the difference between like the lighting, it's the difference between a camera movement and this and that. And equipment becomes the very last part of the process. The equipment is just this is how we're going to execute that. But it all starts with the intention, the intention of like, what is this going to look like? Because there is a million ways that you can shoot a person saying a few lines, you know what I mean? And each one will evoke a different feeling to the audience watching.
All of it like matters in a movie. Like every second, every little decision, like even where a character is standing, all that matters. So like it's good to have like a collaboration with people that get it and they're on the same page and they're like, every decision here matters, so it's
we're very lucky to have each other.
100%. That is the reason why we've never broken apart or wanted to completely work with other people full time. And it's simply because if we bring an idea and slide it on this table, all of us will understand why we came up with that idea. There doesn't need to be any explanation with that.
And I see this is the main reason why this team works. Yes. Because I see, like for example, me, I work with the same people. I like to work with the same filmmakers until they're not doing, until they make a mistake or something that doesn't. Let's put it this way: I have certain values, principles, and if they don't share the same values, I will like kind of stay away. And I see like you guys have that in common. Like you guys have the same values, you guys have the same vision. You respect each other. And dude, I met so many filmmakers, and I keep working with you guys. I want to work with you guys. I love everything you're doing. So we're ready to talk about the award-winning short film She'll Come Back. I want to know how you guys come up with this idea.
Oh, if you want to talk about where the idea came from, that's gonna stem from him over there.
All right, let's go.
How's it going, man? It came from a lot of places. Like the concept itself of the monster, it was always like something I've been fascinated by. I tell this story like all the time. It's back in like high school and middle school, I would listen to a lot of like scary stories, your like creepypastas and whatnot. Like all the time, like every day. And one that I liked the most was a story of like the skinwalker, because that's a thing that's trying to get you out. And that was always really freaky to me, that there's like, it's not just like a monster, it's like something smart enough to want to like mess with you. And I was like, I love that concept. I want to put it in the movie. And that's an idea I've always wanted to like bring to life. And over the years that developed, it snowballed into a larger idea called I Heard Its Voice. That was a feature film that we had been working on, and there was a whole script developed for it. It was like a first draft. But we knew that to get that made, what we'd have to do is make like a smaller version of it, like a proof of concept. And we're trying to figure out how to get this feature script into a smaller script. And it didn't work because, this is a feature. Yeah. And like you take this away, now this doesn't make sense. You can't just start here because then it falls flat because everything in a script like connects. So I don't know, the best way to do it was to just write something that's completely separate from the movie, but it's still like the same concept. It's like a demo almost. Yeah. It was kind of like an extended trailer basically, where it's like this is the general gist of what this one's about, but it's in a shorter, more digestible packet. And here it is. It's like short and written. I was ready to like film this in a house with like cell phones and whatnot, but they were like, no, it's got to be the works. And it did become the works.
Yeah, man, you know why it is, man, because when you sent us that script, I knew exactly what you were going for, and it was such a cinematic script. I can see everything. I can see the tone, and I can see the feelings. And you know what, man? You know what I really liked about it is that, there's no essence of I Heard Its Voice in that. Like there's nothing that you're trying to hang on to from that original feature script. It is completely its own thing, and it feels so fresh. But the thing that carries it is the same like psychological themes of that monster, so you kept what you liked about I Heard His Voice and the reason why you wrote it, but you translated that into a completely new idea. I fully respected that, and I loved that.
This kind of contributes to the mystery of Gerald a little bit because from just to kind of give you guys an inside like view of it, what was funny was we were workshopping that feature script for like a while. But it always starts with Gerald, like, giving us a completed thing. He one day just showed up with a full, I'm pretty sure it was, like, close to 100 pages. Yeah, something like that. Like, feature script. And he gave it to us, and we read through it. And we're like, okay, this is super ambitious. And then, after talking about it for a while, we understood, like he mentioned, we needed to do something short. So that way we can learn how to... We knew that the next film we needed to do was supposed to be budgeted. And we knew that taking a step from where we were to going straight to a feature, a fully budgeted feature to make that movie was going to be just too much. Like, we just weren't at that point yet. And so we decided to do a short film with a budget. And when I tell you that we were like banging our heads against the wall trying to get that to work, and it just was not working, trying to get this feature into this short like he had mentioned. And again, we just left it alone, or like we just kept talking about it. And then one day Gerald shows up and here's a completed short film script. So that's how it works. Is from me and Aaron's perspective, he just showed up one day.
Yeah, and I think that gets taken for granted for a long time, because if one person didn't decide to just camp themselves up in their room during COVID and sick with COVID, I believe is what I remember the story being, and make that, like we wouldn't have this idea. We wouldn't be here or have traveled so far, if it wasn't just for the simple work of one person just locking in and doing like one thing and having it be completed, because I think
it was basically completed upon
it was completed.
Very
very little was changed of the script, maybe some dialogue, some character changes. Originally one of the characters was supposed to be a male, but we ended up finding that having it be a relationship between two females kind of just worked a lot better for like the dynamic of the characters and the story and stuff. So that's one of the things that was changed, but very little of it was changed, because I thought that it was completely doable in the state that it was in.
Yeah, we saw it and we're like, we're not going to change anything. This is perfect.
Yeah, man, I remember
it was right.
It was like getting the ball rolling.
So I have a question for you. So when you were reading the script and you start having a vision, kind of like watching the movie in your head, do you do that?
Yes,
right?
For sure.
So I think like every filmmaker does, right?
Yeah.
So when you were reading the script, did you consider the budget? Like how much money you need? We need to get rid of this. Or you were just like, hey, this is the budget we're going to find, and this is how I'm going to make this movie happen with this budget.
I think it was kind of both of what you just said. So, of course, you're reading it. And the first thing that I tried to do is just read it as a story. Kind of like when you're watching a movie for the first time, you're not thinking about like all the technical, or you shouldn't think about all the technical aspects yet. Just experience it and have that feeling kind of naturally happen. And I really liked the feeling that the script gave me. And then I went back and read it. I was like, okay, how doable is this for us? Okay, this. you know what, like there's nothing crazy about this. Like I think the craziest thing about it for us was just that there was a monster in the movie. And
I think what was really good about it is that there is one big scene. The big scene happens at the end, and we know that that's the big scene, and that scene is the whole movie. But what makes the movie so good, and you're asking, well, how do you make an award-winning, short film? I think it starts with having one huge inciting incident, and the entire movie just building up to that incident, so that incident feels way larger than what it actually is. Because if we
go there in a little bit. I don't want to spoiler. I want to go like through like the budget, like putting everything together by stages. So I want to know like how do you accomplish your part in this movie as a producer, and also reading the script as a writer, because I know like you also have a heart of a writer. So
it was cool. Like I mentioned before, reading it and understanding like, oh, this is exactly what we need to do. I'm committed to changing as little about this as possible, because it was kind of like I had both the writer and producer brain working at the same time, which is like understanding it might be a little bit difficult to be able to execute that monster and that whole scene in general, but also understanding that that's exactly what makes the story work. And also like as a writer and as just like a lover of movies, you see this, you read this script that just works so well that you're just like, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to make sure that we can make this movie exactly like how it's written here. And if not, then it's not worth making. Like because you have to put in so much time towards making these movies that you want to make sure that what it is that you're making is as good as possible. And you understand the more you take from this, the less quality it's going to have, the less of the original soul it's going to have. You're just picking off of it. So I just realized really quickly, and I communicated to the rest of them that like, no, we're going to make this exactly how it's written. And also like in terms of like getting it made as a producer, I feel like it was relatively, or maybe I just feel like this because we're in the future now as far as that occurrence goes, but it felt pretty simple. Like the story itself is not complicated. There's just something that we've never done before, and so we took that as a challenge that we're like gonna really like throw ourselves into. And so basically what I always did and what I always do to this day is I talk to other filmmakers that I know who I love and respect, and who have done it on a bigger scale than I have. And so I talked to them, and so I reached out to a couple filmmakers. I'll mention them, like Edgar Cortez and Julia
Weisberg Cortez.
Yeah. And Julia Weisberg Cortez were such a big help. They were a couple filmmakers who are in LA who I met through like a film festival or whatever, and they became huge inspirations. And so I just picked their brain for like a couple hours because they've done bigger budgeted short films that look unreal on screen. And so I talked to them, hey, how do I put this together? I've never put together a budget before. Like usually when we made our films before, it's with a couple $100 and whatever it is that we could find, and any corner that we can cut. And so we did. So this was a thing where we knew that this budget needed to be somewhere between the like $10,000 to $20,000 range. I think for a while $20,000 was kind of the goal, and then we worked it down to 15. And so it was kind of just putting each piece together just by collecting as much information as possible. We always go back to where it is that we started, which is just educate yourself a little bit more, either looking on YouTube or looking up interviews or talking to people who have done it that are better than you at this moment with certain aspects, like money in my case. And it's all pretty like logic based. We knew that we didn't have $15,000, and so the natural next step through their recommendation, Julia and Edgar, was, well, you could crowdfund it. And again, that was never something I had done before. And so you kind of just throw yourself into that wide open ocean of unknowing and just try to make your way through it and inform yourself as you go along, learn as you go along. And then we realized pretty quickly through their recommendation that it was extremely doable for us. Like we're very fortunate to have people who want us to succeed, who really enjoy what it is that we've done in the past for free. And so they were like, we knew we had a bunch of favors, like just waiting for us to take advantage of. And so we used that crowd fund, as an opportunity to kind of take advantage of them, like all at the same time. And so that's pretty much how we put it together.
And one of the things that I want to mention is that, it's not about the project, it's not about the movie. When someone put money that, into one of these projects, they actually put money on you.
Yeah.
Because, they love you, they believe in you. And it's like the same thing when you're selling a product, is people buy from people that like. So you guys are very likable, and you guys, once you put your campaign out there, what happened is that they were supporting you. Because a lot of, what is the thing about horror films is that a lot of people don't want to put money into a horror film. But so now, on the budget perspective, how did you adapt, right, visually with the $15,000-$20,000 that you have?
Right.
Like, how was the process?
Well, I think the process comes from just how we are fundamentally as filmmakers in general. We are a less is more kind of team, and our style is less is more. And it's not, it's a choice. It's not by necessity. It's by necessity in the moment, because we have limited resources. But in general, even if we had unlimited resources, we would still be a less is more filmmaking team. I just think that that's what makes the most interesting projects, not executing something in the fullest extent that you can, but restrictions is what makes projects interesting, because restrictions forces you to make decisions around restrictions, and that's where creativity comes from. Creativity isn't just you have unlimited colors and unlimited ideas. Creativity is needing to adapt to certain things, and how do you do that is what makes it interesting. And I think that with this budget, it was really tough just because there was a few scenes that were very, very large. But I think that with that less is more approach, I was really excited to be able to execute that and not think so much about the production side, but think about the actual material that we were going to be shooting. So things that we did to kind of cut budget was less crew. We had a small crew. We chose people that can operate as 3 people in one. We chose people that are very efficient in many different fields and many different positions. We chose people that we can trust. We chose people that have worked with us before, so that there doesn't need to be that learning process. You just jump on the set and we know how to operate with each other. And I think we were very, very fortunate, I would say, to get the kind of quality that we have with this film, because we had a connection. Our professor at Broward College, his name is Nathan Makita. He owns an Arri Alexa 35 that he rents out to different productions and, to make films and stuff. And it really is, like you said, about being likable, about developing these connections. It always pays off with these favors, So he was able to offer us this favor because he always believed in us. He always knew that what we were doing was great, and he wanted to help in any way possible. And we said, hey, man, this is how you can help. We want to make something that is of good quality, but we can't afford that quality right now. So if you're not able to provide us this Arri, then we're going to shoot it with a regular Blackmagic or whatever.
Did you say something key? I remember we have a conversation. So just to give you a little bit of context, guys, I work with them as a camera operator, and I've been helping them through part of the process. So one question that I asked you, was why an Arri Alexa, not a smaller camera, and then you can use that money for other things?
Right. So I think that in Arri Alexa, I was just very excited to kind of work with that new jump in technology, and I am a very, you don't need as much equipment or whatever, but I was really excited to kind of work with this and kind of enter this next zone, this next like quality level. And I know that the Arri Alexa has an incredible dynamic range to it and stuff too. So with that, we weren't going to be able to have as much, lighting as we wanted. We're not going to have as much equipment for the lighting. So what we need is a wide dynamic range. We need something that's able to capture lots of light and lots of dark at once. So think of it like this, with something like a Blackmagic or maybe something like a Sony, a camera that's not able to handle as much light. Maybe it's not as good of a low light camera. That means that we require more light to light. We require more equipment for it to look good, so that the shadows aren't crushed or anything.
But I think like more than the light and all these aspects, technical aspects, I think like you were looking for a specific look, right? And in your brain and with your experience, you were like, this is the camera that can provide me that look.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I think what the look was naturalistic. I wanted the film to feel like there wasn't a single light in any corner shining on an actor. I wanted this to feel like a campfire story. You know, I wanted this to feel as real as possible, because the film works when everything is as grounded as possible, so that when this supernatural element, the monster, the skinwalker, comes into play, it's that much more, heavy and like and very intense, because you're so used to everything being so real, that when this comes, it feels real. We don't set up a very like fantasy kind of film. So I think that with having that naturalistic look, I think that the Arri Alexa 35 specifically is an incredible low light camera, that we're able to have minimal lighting and have that camera be able to still capture the things that we want, and in the color grading, be able to, like, for it to still look good, even though you don't have that much light and that much, technical equipment.
On this point as well, sorry to cut you off, but on this point, it was also a thing where these were conversations that were had. The question you just asked were 100% the conversations that we had, which is, we can save ourselves this amount of money to pay for this Arri, to possibly pay for other things. And this was a conversation that we were having a lot. It would have also been cheaper in some ways for us to shoot it at night. Like, that was also a conversation that was possibly had. We could have made the movie, because the movie takes place during the day. Like, we didn't have to do that. We could have just shot it at nighttime, lit it in a much different way, and that would have probably saved us a bunch. But there were two completely unmoving points that, for one of them was Gerald was very, very clear. I do not want this to be at night from the beginning. I was also, and so he was as well. Which is why, I mean, they shared a vision, and which is why I'm the producer and I'm not the director, because they were telling me like really hard about it. We're not going to shoot this at night. We're going to shoot it during the day because of the story, because it will feel scarier, because of what it'll feel like if it's during the day. It feels less safe. And so that was something I had to kind of adjust on. And also, what was funny was there was a moment during the production, it was like a single moment, where I think you had been okay if we shot it on a Blackmagic, which we had for free. We had that at our disposal, as opposed to shooting it on the Arri. And I was like, no, like, that's not going to happen, because what it is that he had explained to me what it would look like on the Arri as opposed to what it would look like on the Blackmagic, I was telling him, no, you had this idea, we're going to follow that through, and I will figure it out. Like, we will figure it out. I'll figure out the money. And we were able to do that. I think it's just, you have to understand the aspects of your film that are unmoving. And that's kind of what we did.
Yeah. And there's one thing about filming in the forest at night. I just did that. And it's a lot of people. You need a lot of money.
I do. You need lots of lights. You need a lot of light, because the thing is that shooting in the darkness, in daytime is a lot easier. Shooting at darkness at night, and especially outside, there is zero light, and especially in the location that we were shooting at, there was no city nearby, there was no town nearby.
Those lights have to go really high,
and the lights have to go high, because at that point then you need to simulate moonlight. See, the thing is, it's all about being natural. I didn't want to just shine a light that was eye level, because where's that light coming from? It needs to be influenced by something, and the intention needs to be there. So if we wanted this film to be naturalistic, like we already decided from the beginning that that's the best way possible, and we decided to shoot at night, that means that we need to light this area as natural as possible. And what's the most natural light that you get? Moonlight. And simulating moonlight, it needs to be in the sky, which is very high, and it also needs to cover a huge area, which is very expensive. So in that sense, shooting it in the daytime, it did help the story and the character of the themes and everything, but also it's free light, daylight is free light.
Do you know one thing I want to tell you about it? It feels, I don't know if it's just me, it feels scarier.
Yes, I think it does too.
I know it does.
Yes. To be honest, you will think like, you're scared of what you cannot see. That's a reality, right? But the thing is like all bright, you get these characters, and him going there, it's just like there's no one there. So Gerald, I want to know something about the script now that we're talking about budget, and you already say that you don't care, you write it like you have unlimited budget, but when you were writing, do you consider at any point money? Like, you're like, I'm gonna cut this scene, I'm gonna do this, or you were just inspired by, and let Zach
figure it out.
It's funny because as we were talking about it, I'm remembering like more and more about when I wrote it. And like at the time, we had gotten together with like a group of other people to film some other thing. And well, you were there, yeah. I think that's like, we had worked on that, and I was like inspired off that. I was like, damn, you really get a bunch of people together and just like film something. So I remember writing this script, and at the time when I was writing it, in the back of my mind, I was like, all right, let me write something like really small and like doable, which is funny because now looking back, seeing like what it became, like one of my bigger regrets was like, damn, if I'd known we would have like done all this, I would have like done more, you know, like.
No, but that's
so yeah,
it was good as it is.
Yeah, it's like that weird balance because at the end of the day, the cheapest thing you could do is like make no movie, you know, but you have to be like deliberate with like your ambition, with like what it is that you want to do. Now when I write, I'll tell anybody like, don't think about the budget. That's somebody else's department. That's like I'll be reasonable in your mind, like don't put it in a spaceship, but you have a job, like you have to create something worth making, you know, and like don't be afraid to be like ambitious. Like even filming with an Ari Alexa, it wasn't like the most necessary thing that we had to do, but it elevates the movie to a certain level. You know, that's skills that now he has, having worked on that. So it's like, don't sell yourself short, but like know where you're gonna sell yourself when you're writing these things, you know, because unfortunately the budget is like a reality of it. But if you're too scared, too bound by it, you're not gonna go nowhere, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And at the end of the day, we're filmmakers. We adapt, and that's what we do, you know.
Ooh, and the thing you said about the you were right. That's why I made it during the day, because I'm like, you know, you expect it at night. Like if it's all dark, it's a very typical like horror movie, but. You were right. That's why
I think it makes it stand out. It gives it a unique feeling, you know, because it's not just in the daytime. Specifically to me, it takes place during blue hour. It takes place in the morning. And when I was reading it, I always loved that it is a sunrise movie. It is like imagine this, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night when it's 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., you know, when you walk outside and the sun is just coming out. It's misty and it's foggy and you can just barely see. It's all blue. Like that's what was the scariest thing.
Just remember, what's so sleepy when you
very sleepy.
Filming at
I know.
I couldn't talk.
I know, man.
You're like, go back to sleep, man.
There's a scene in the movie when you see it. On the left side of the screen, I'm sleeping on the couch.
I do. Yes.
There's a scene when you're watching the movie. Because you guys were filming. I remember waking up and I see like men walking around with a camera. I was like
trying not to wake them up. But yeah, that's a good thing to talk about. That the crew, we all slept on the floor of this cabin. You know, like we had this location. We didn't have enough money to put people in hotels or anything in the area. So we're like, if we're making a campfire movie, then let's make a fucking campfire movie and let's feel like we're in summer camp and we're camped up in this cabin. You know.
So to give me an idea, let's talk about pre-production and then we talk about production.
Sure.
Who want to start with the pre-production? Who got a lot of ideas?
Well, I think, you know, what was great about you, I think going into the fundraiser is great because I think a lot of people can get a lot out of us speaking about how we were able to fundraise this, you know, and what goes into that, because, you know, so we talk so much about this gray area. There's always a gray area, which is, you know, you get from this place to this place and nobody, you know, kind of explains how they are able to get there because it's, this connection, that connection, or whatever. But I think that, you know, us talking about the fundraiser is kind of filling in that gray area, is helping people.
Yeah, so with pre-production, like we had mentioned, the script was already written. We already knew how it was, for the most part, visually, we were going to attack it. And Aaron and Gerald were already putting together storyboards. And so we understood the figure that we needed, which was that $15,000. And so entering the idea of crowdfunding, we knew that the biggest thing that we could have done to get that fundraiser to work was to sell ourselves as individuals. We knew that we had a certain amount of people who knew us that were going to help. But first off, we needed to convince them that the next thing that we were doing was going to be sick, was going to be awesome, and better than anything that we've ever done. We wanted to communicate what we already knew to other people, which is this is going to be a huge step forward for us. And we knew we needed to grab the attention of people who didn't know us yet. So the way that we did that was putting together a proof of concept, which was already kind of done prior in a way. So we put together that proof, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but it paid off for us, that proof of concept, a lot more in pre-production than we thought it was going to. But we put together some like visual packages for ourselves. So we did photo shoots, we did little we just looked at other fundraisers that worked, right? And understood, oh, this is how it is that you should present it. This is the type of information you should include. And that's what we did, and we modeled it after more successful fundraisers that have gotten their films made. And it worked out. Luckily, like the month of it being open, we made somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000, which was fantastic.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And also just trying to like campaign for yourself as much as you could throughout that month and prior. And we were able to do that. And I'm going by really quickly, but that was a big aspect of it. But talking a little bit about once we had that money, we knew that the number one thing that we wanted to do was not the camera. It wasn't even necessarily the location. The number one thing that we needed, like Aaron mentioned before, was a team of people who understood what it was that we were trying to accomplish, understood how it was that we would have to accomplish it under certain circumstances, not always positive, like sleeping on the floor. And also understanding that the talent that we needed to work with had to be a huge step up. This was going to be an extremely subtle film in regards to our actors. There were not going to be that many big scenes for them to be like, this is not your classic like jump scare horror film. It's a film about internal terror. And so because of that, we needed talent who were going to communicate that in a way that was very subtle and very minimal. So we put a lot of our attention towards talking to and kind of gathering as many talented, you know, filmmakers, talented crew members like Nathan, like you, reaching out to the people who we had never worked with up to that point. Like Warren was somebody that you recommended. I'm pretty sure you had him on this podcast at some point. Yeah. And he's fantastic. He was somebody who like showed up out of nowhere and like saved the day for us. And that's kind of what was most important, was having a team. Also, Erin Luna, I want to give her a shout out because she really kept the film together. She was our director. She was our assistant director, and she really kind of held it together. And so there, I can shout out everybody, but we had a crew of about 15 people, and they did amazing work considering the circumstances they needed to work under, which was basically we communicated to crew and talent like, hey, we're working with $15,000. Anybody who knows anything knows that that's not a lot of money for a film, especially when we needed to find a location, which ended up being in Clewiston, which is, I don't know if you guys know where that is. It's in the middle of nowhere. And we found a cabin, and we understood that we were going to have to house people here, and it was going to be slightly uncomfortable. And just being honest, like you mentioned, about the circumstances that we were going to have to deal with. And the thing is the way that we were able to decide who that crew and who the talent were going to be was, again, not just based off the talent, but when we told them this, how excited were they about that idea? You know, like there were certain people in our crew, I think everybody in our crew was like, that sounds awesome. Being able to like sleep in a cabin for 2 or 3 nights while we make this whole movie, like, let's do it. That's awesome. It sounds the most exciting thing ever. And those are the people that we chose. And that's pretty much how pre-production went, was just like understanding where our strengths needed to be, attending to those first and foremost, and with the most, mindfulness. And, you know, we were lucky enough to find extremely talented crew like Crystal, Gabe, Sylvie, and Glay. Because we only had 4, but yeah, everybody was amazing.
Yeah, so I think in a few words, just to wrap the idea on the budget and moving to pre-production, which is also part of the casting and everything. You know how you hire everyone. So in a few words, what was key, or the key elements that you will say, okay, this made our campaign successful?
Our campaign, I think the key element was just us being able to talk about ourselves and our story, just being able to understand it, you know, because the thing is that when someone's jumping on a ship this large and we're asking them to contribute something, you know, you want to make sure that these guys know what they're going to do with this money, you know. So we needed to express these ideas to everybody without them thinking that we are doubting ourselves in the slightest. We
need to showcase ourselves.
Yeah, we needed to showcase ourselves, and I think that our biggest strength is us being able to talk about like our ideas and talk about ourselves. We understand ourselves a lot, and just with Zach's writing and everything, I think that was a big deal. With our mission statements, our talking about like why the film is important, why should we make this movie, why should you donate to this movie and not the movie, maybe that might be a more important story or something like that, or more interesting. I think that was a big key element to it. And also just the amount of connections that we were able to build and relationships that we were able to build with people, I think that was really key. I also want to shout out one of our family members. His name is Jason. He really helped us out a lot. He made a very hefty donation, simply just because he's known that we've been doing this for a long time, and it wasn't just a little pipe dream, that we are working every single day, currently still working every single day, even if you guys don't see it, like we meet all the time and we do personal work all the time and mind work all the time. And this isn't just like a hobby for us. This is, and for me, most importantly, this is the most important thing in my life, and it's my deep life's passion, and I think that gets executed in every like sentence that we say, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Also being organized, because you said you guys have meetings, you guys put everything on Milano. By the way, you guys use Milano to organize the film.
Milano, that's a great piece of our pre-production.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I mean, you hit it right on the head. You want to get people like on board with you. You want them to see what you see. I think what helped us a lot is we definitely planned it out. Like we laid out like the marketing of it, like what we're gonna do this week, what we're gonna do that week. We're gonna take the pictures so we can do this. We were pretty strategic about it, because you want people to be as excited about it as you are. There was like I don't know if you remember the Monty Python movie Life of Brian. Like it was a movie that they made back in the 60s. They couldn't get funding for it anywhere because it was about religion, and at the time, it was hard to tell.
Yeah.
So one of the Beatles, I think George Harrison, he gave them the money to make the movie, and they asked him, "Is like, well, why'd you do that? Are you trying to make like a statement on religion?" And he's like, "No, I wanted to see the movie."
That
and like awesome. That's what you want people to like think. You want them to be like, I want to see the movie.
Yes, and like when someone is creating a crowdfunding campaign, think about this country have 300 million people, right? Like, so, I mean, you get 10,000 doing a donation for you already get $1 million movie. So it's all about like how you share your story, how you put everything together, and that you have a plan.
Yep.
Because most of the people, when they want to get crowdfunding or a grant, they are like, I have an idea. This is my idea, and then they show you what the idea is, but they don't have a plan, they don't have everything.
Yes.
I think that was a key element on your film. You had every aspect figured out.
There was nothing like
we put a lot of time into figuring that out. I think it went by quicker for us because we just understand one another, but it was, like you mentioned, it was very organized, and that was purposeful. There is no letter of a mission statement. There is no image that wasn't carefully thought out. Because like what Gerald said, you want somebody to just want to watch the movie. So because of that, you need to give them as much information as possible. Like this is exactly what the movie is going to be like. Here it is.
Yeah.
Now,
post was too small. Every single Instagram post that we had was carefully curated. It had a date of when it was going to get posted.
We planned this months ahead of time.
We planned everything.
Can you please tell me, like, let's say someone there's watching and they want to know how you put the steps. Like, step 1, I'm going to work on this. Step 2, not like the whole thing, just like part of the plan.
Yeah, so I think a part of it was the advice that we got from Edgar and Julia. They told us that the first month, no, it was the first 2 weeks of your crowdfunding campaign being open is the most important part. And if you don't hit 50% of what your goal is in the first 2 weeks, then you're not going to hit your goal. The first 2 weeks, it's completely momentum based. So what we had to do was it was like we were getting ready for the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl was when the campaign went live. So it was preparing for when that campaign went live, that we had every single thing planned out, so that by the time we clicked that that button and opened up the campaign, everybody already knew about it, and everybody already, the people who were going to donate already decided that they were going to donate.
Yeah, you know? I think with the crowdfunding, there's kind of two parts of it, right? It's like the couple weeks leading up to it opening, and then the first 2 weeks of it being open. So like Aaron mentioned, you need to build up that momentum for it to carry on through the first half of that crowdfunding opening, because usually you don't want a campaign for longer than a month, or have the campaign open for longer than a month, or else it's just going to die. You're just wasting time. But when it came to preparing for it, we spent a lot of time like putting our Seed and Spark page together. Like
that's important.
Yes,
like,
yeah. We did it on Seed and Spark, which,
yes.
by the way, in my opinion, and of a shared opinion of a bunch of filmmakers that I've talked to and collaborated with in a way, that is the most beneficial site. Not a sponsor. This is just like not personal experience, but it's a really great tool to use because it's for the purpose of films. And anyone who's on that site is there to see some up and coming films that are going to be made. And so with us, like I mentioned before, we just looked at other successful crowdfunding campaigns and just followed that advice. Okay, how is it that we should present this? Okay, like literally, and that's something I would give advice to for any filmmakers looking to crowdfund. Talk to people who have done it and look at campaigns that are successful, because we basically like modeled it after those successful crowdfunding campaigns that we've seen in a way that we knew was going to apply to the film that we were trying to communicate. Okay, we understand this is a horror film, so we're going to talk about these aspects. Let's like mock out it, understand what the strengths of your film is going to be, capitalize on that, and put a lot of attention towards it, and then, you know, be prepared with every possible question that somebody could have. You know, like, what are you going to do with that money? Okay, cool. This is exactly what we're going to do with that money. We're putting this amount towards crew. We're putting this amount towards the monster itself. We're putting this amount towards location. So just so that way when somebody understands, okay, when I'm choosing not to buy something else for myself and I'm donating $50 to these people, where is my $50 going? This is exactly where it's going to. Yeah. It's going to this thing. It's going to make the monster look that much better. You know, like with us finding an amazing creature designer in Eric Corbin of Corbin's Creatures. And so it's just having all of those questions that somebody could possibly have for you already answered in the campaign itself, and then building up that momentum through social media. Like, we knew that Instagram was our strongest tool that we have in terms of our audience. And so we capitalized on that with photo shoots or with videos of us talking about the film. You know, like I think it's still up.
And everything is of the same quality. Nothing is of loss of quality. You know, like every single thing that we do, every video that we make, every post that we make, it will match the quality of the film that you're going to see, because that is the only reference that the audience has of the film, because the film hasn't been made yet.
Yeah,
you know,
that is very interesting. You know, when you're putting an idea out there, how do you show this vision? You know, was AI a thing?
Not at all. No, we didn't.
What software do you use to kind of like show a vision of it?
Well, if you're talking, are you talking about pre-production, like when you organize something,
like when you were you know, doing the budget and everything, so you want to show people like how the movie is gonna look like. That's what you're talking about, right?
So what I mean is, like, you know, if you're making a post, like for example, if we make a video talking, it's our campaign video, it's our crowdfunding campaign video. Hey guys, we are Aerial Films. We are making this movie. We talk about it. We need this much money. Even if it's just a small video like that, we are going to light that video. We are going to we are going to shoot it with a good camera. We're going to edit it in a good way. We're going to have good text, because that video is the only reference that the people have of the quality that the film is going to be, you know. And we do that with everything. Like we have a very high quality standard with everything. We don't press post on any post that we don't think completely represents our quality standard.
It's not just the post itself and like the contents of it, but like people are paying attention to the quality, because you're scrolling, you're
Yeah,
not
it's
paying
true, because they
attention,
don't know you and they want to know.
Yeah, they don't know us.
See what these
So
guys are.
if we're
count,
promising, hey, we're making this badass movie, it's gonna look so good, it's gonna be this, and we're describing everything. Yet the video that they click on was made on an iPhone and it's edited like shit. They're gonna think that the movie is gonna be shot on an iPhone and edited like shit. They don't have a direct reference of how are you gonna do this. Everything that I'm seeing that you've done so far isn't that.
Especially when the prior films that we made, like you mentioned, were not of the quality of what it is that we were trying to make.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's exactly what he's saying. There needs to be a point of reference for somebody to understand, okay, if you're taking this next step, show me. And so that's what we did.
I think that's what we did. I think that people had confidence that we would be able to do that because we were showing them that we were able to do that in the tiny little details.
A direct way that it paid off, and I'll say this really shortly, was our lead actor, Gabriel, who we were very lucky to have be a part of our team and a part of our cast, just like the other cast members. But he specifically said that the reason why he wanted to be a part of our project in any capacity was because he saw our Instagram.
Wow.
Yes, he
That's
saw
all it
our
was.
Instagram account and he said
that's very
the
interesting.
quality of your guys' Instagram is all I needed. Like that's I want to be involved in this
He's like
company.
a-
You know what? I
professional
remember
actor.
Gabriel saying that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said that on the
He
premiere.
looked- yes.
He was saying that on the premiere when he was announcing it. But you know what? It's simply a thing where it's like he wanted to be involved in the project. And he thought that we were a bigger company than we were. You know, he thought that he was getting involved in something that was going to put his career in a different
Studios.
place. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Ariel Studios.
Ariel Studios. He thought that it was a huge team, and he was like, "Oh, we're sending emails. We're sending professional emails because every single thing we do is of that quality standard. We don't sacrifice quality in any capacity. So the emails that we sent are completely professional. The contracts are completely
It's
legit. Everything is intentional. And he's getting all this stuff, and he's like, "Holy shit, I'm involved in something huge." And then he goes and has a meeting with us, and it's 3 goofy guys, you know, and he's like, "Holy shit, it's just you guys? Like it's just 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's what's doing this whole thing." And we're like, "Yeah, bro." Of course.
Kiana Kohut is
No, so-
super
All
helpful.
right,
Yeah.
so now that we're talking about pre-production, because this is part of the pre-production, so how was finding the cast? Who was
Oh.
working on the part?
Oh man, that
You?
was
Yeah. So I was doing a lot of, so we're all important with it, and I want to talk about each of these steps because I think it's very, very important for any up and coming filmmakers to understand. And it's that with us, we casted a really wide net. And we covered all the grounds that we knew were going to be beneficial for us. So we, just through having social media and paying attention through social media through the Ariel account, we already had certain actors that had made themselves apparent to us and had made themselves known to us. Not by saying what's up, but like actors whose work we've seen in the past just through happenstance, right? So that includes Gabriel, that includes Glay. And so the way that we had kind of discovered them was just through Instagram. And so we kept note of them. And I knew ahead of time that with us taking a next step, there were going to be actors that we weren't ready to reach out to yet, like in previous films. But I knew that this one was the one that we had to take advantage of all of
So
that.
this was a group that you already have, like in
I didn't know
mind.
them. I was just aware of them. I just saw them on
Wow.
Instagram. I saw Gabriel's work and I saw Glay's work, and I had already mentioned to these two, I'm like, we have to reach out to these two. That is 100% going to be happening. And there were other examples of those types of people as well. But the way that our casting process went was we put together like a huge spreadsheet of people that we already knew through Instagram or any other type of social media. And then we also put a listing on Backstage because that was something that Gerald had experience with in the past and something that we had experimented with in the past and kind of knew the ins and outs of. And Backstage can sometimes be a little bit like a Craigslist of actors. So you're going to get a bunch of people who are like really on top of it, and then you're going to get a bunch of people who, you know, took their headshot like laying on their couch.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention about Backstage, because we just used it and we found an amazing cast, like really good. So there was like the description, like our cast director, he put very specific, blonde guy, blue eyes, you know, like kind of like gamer. And then we got Indian, African American, Asian, like everyone was just shooting for it.
I love
Every
it.
character.
Tried.
Yeah.
But here was the thing. So we choose this guy who want to play Lucas, and he's an African American guy. And he did an amazing job. So that's one thing is do not limit yourself when you're doing
Yes.
a cast by the character that was.
That is
So
so
one thing that we pride ourselves in is that we when we write characters, it is open game for any person to be able to throw their hat in on that character. And if we see something, then we see it. That's something that we've also gotten lots of praise on before with all of our previous films, is that our cast is always very diverse, you know, and we don't even think about that. Like, we could pride ourselves in that, and we could say, and we could, you know, promote ourselves, advertise ourselves as such. You know, we're a very diverse company and we bring in all people, but we don't even do that. Like, we don't do that because
natural, right?
It's natural. If this person is able to, you know, embody this character in a way that we see it, it doesn't matter who you are, we'll make it work.
That's all that we care about.
And I think that it comes from being in the environment that we are in and what we were raised in. We were raised in Broward County, Florida, which is a huge melting pot of different ethnicities and different kinds of people, you know, and we see that as a plus, not as a negative, you know.
I mean, it's amazing. I have a question for you. You know, like, one of the things is, like, writers and cast directors, they're looking for a specific thing, right? And now when you open the door, like the way you guys did you consider your characters to be Hispanic?
Yeah,
because they're Hispanic, right? Like
yeah,
they just
the
so
three
happen
of
to
them.
be. They just so
So
happen
you didn't put anything on the script.
As far as I can tell from you, you
No.
didn't really.
No, it's just like he said. You know, it's always open gate whenever.
And
That's
even, even when we put out our casting
is
calls on
great.
Instagram, our character descriptions, you know, one thing that I don't really like is when someone puts white male, looking for a white male in their 30s, blonde white male. You know, that's not what, like, a character description should be.
If you
character
read
description.
the script, it just says the character's name and then it goes on.
Yeah,
Like, there's no
I
description.
like it. I don't think it's like a right or wrong way to do it. Just I like the way you guys are doing it. You know, it's just Denzel Washington was talking about African Americans, how it feels to be an African American, how to feel to be probably someone that was born in this country as a white man. And he mentioned that there's a specific thing about culture, not color, which is very interesting, right? But I do love what you guys do.
I think it depends also on the story, because the thing is that if we're writing a story about somebody in the Hispanic community in a specific job that they're doing and tackling a very specific culture, we're not going to then hire a white man to go and play that role. It depends on the story. This story isn't about a specific culture or a specific ethnicity.
It's about fear.
So why limit ourselves?
I like it.
It's a broad theme of fear, and fear is in every kind of person. But if we decided to write a story maybe about our specific culture, then we would be intentional with making sure that we get somebody in that same culture, so that we don't steal a role from them or whatever.
Yeah.
This extends a little bit to the casting process as well. I'll bring it back, because this is an important thing to keep in mind. Was when we were casting in general, we had that conversation. It could be anybody, right? Okay, yeah. Cool. And then so much so that we casted a woman to play what was initially a man's part. And we just adjusted just because it just worked better. And so
If it works better, it works better.
For us, with the casting process kind of continuing from backstage and putting together the spreadsheet and whatnot, like, we basically asked the same question of everybody. Like, if there was people that we met on Instagram, we emailed them or we DM'd them. But we DM'd them the same thing that we reach out to the people on backstage was, which is, this is a story that we have. We're interested in you possibly throwing your hat in the ring for this part. We're going to give you a side. Can you please send us back a video submission of you reading the side? Okay, cool. All the people who message us back. I mean, we had so many submissions for this too, which was really exciting. And at one point it was really depressing. So basically, like, we had to go through a bunch of people and just, you know, a bunch of people who just weren't fitting the part for us, right? And so we make our way through it. We keep note of people who maybe had some potential for what the characters were. We put them over here in the spreadsheet, and then we bogged it down to basically like 20 people. After we decided who that was going to be, which took us like a bit to do, which was, to me, it was the most fun part of pre-production, was casting.
It was
100%.
It's amazing, right? Like, when you see the videotape and then you see it in real life.
You know why it's so
that's
fun,
the first
man?
time you see the characters, like,
Yes,
being alive.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know why it's so fun? Specifically the tape that we got from Gabriel Salgado, man. It was like we were sifting through a bunch of audition tapes that we were like, oh, you just don't really understand, you know, what we're trying to go for, and that's okay. Just on to the next. And when we got his reel, it was like, that's somebody, now you understand what we're trying to go for, you know. And even if you didn't do it perfectly, we're not looking for the perfect tape or somebody that embodies the character exactly how we see it. But if this person understands what we're going for, then that person is workable. We can work with that person.
It's fun because I have a moment like that for all 4 of them, and I'll quickly go through that quickly. Because I remember them exactly, and I've told this to them. With Gabriel, it was that moment. Gabriel was the first person that we saw who submitted a tape that we were just like, oh my God, that's it.
You get it.
That's it. He just gets it. Boom, yeah. Put him on the list. With Glay, with Glay, I noticed her because of her, what's it called? Like her reel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her acting reel. Mm-hmm. And there was a particular part that I always mentioned to her, but she was playing a boxer. I don't remember exactly what the movie was, but it was in that part alone that I'm like, there's something in there that she has. And then when she submitted the sides, it kind of confirmed that, for me as well. With Crystal, it was we were looking at her reel.
Yeah, the quality of her reel.
And it was the quality of her reel was fantastic. And also there was this movie that she was in that was on Amazon that got nominated for an award of some sort. Yeah. And her performance in that was amazing. And then when she sent her reel in, and she was the character of Michelle is very much somebody who's in like having a somber moment. And she embodied that fantastically in the side that she had sent to us. The video submission she sent to us. And then with Sylvie, who plays the creature designer, she took the time to send us 4 separate clips of her moving as different animals. So there was one that she's like, here's me being more upright. That's kind of more like reptilian. Here's me on all 4s, kind of like more of like a spider. Here's me kind of like this animal. Here's me kind of like this animal. And it's just like, there's these people who just understand what it is that we're trying to do, and because of that they're like head and shoulders above the rest. So with the casting, we brought it down to about 20 people, and then once we had those 20 people, we invited them in person to do chemistry reads.
Chemistry reads is the most important part of the process.
We talk about the inspiration of the movie and everything, but I never asked like what's the movie about. So now we're going into moments of the movie, talking about creatures, and I have a question for you about the creature, because this is a thing that I learned from you as a writer, and I've been following that. Yeah, really good advice. Okay. But I'm going with you first. So what's the movie about?
What's the movie
in a few
about?
words? Yeah, like to give context.
The movie is about a group of friends who wake up one morning to find their dog missing, which is very odd because there's no possible way that the dog could have gone missing. It's such a short movie that like I don't want to give you anything else. The less you know, the better. That's really what it's about. It's about fear and whatnot. But that's basically, it's this like quiet moment between these people that's now like disrupted by a very unpleasant event,
And you already talk about the creature, like the
skinwalker.
Skinwalker. The thing is, in Spanish have a very funny name. They call it the cambia pieles.
Cambia
pieles is like you change your skin. It's so weird. But so talking about the creature, and this is the question I wanna ask him, but I'm gonna ask you that question first. So what the creature represents?
The creature, what does it represent? To me, it represents malice. It represents like what's really dangerous isn't something that's going to eat you. It's something that knows how to eat you. That's what it represents. It's something that plans and it strategizes, and that's terrifying. Not just something that's going to grab you and catch you. It's just it watches you, it observes you, and it knows how to get into your mind. That's what it represents for me. Yeah.
I love that. So that was one thing that he told me a while ago. We're working on a horror film, I believe. I was discussing with him as an advisor, as a writer, right? I was talking about a creature, and he was like, hey, no, Rafael, this cannot be like this, just a scary thing. No. What this creature represent? And I've been using this on every film. So if you want to give a piece of advice to the filmmakers about creating a creature, which we're going to talk about money, how much money costs that, and how much effort to make it happen. So what advice can you give to the filmmakers that are writing a creature or a villain in a movie?
I think it's really important to, like I mentioned before, understand what the intentions and the amalgamation of what this creature does represent. I think it's important not just to make something that looks scary and feels scary, but there has to be motivation as to why this, character, it's either in a villain or in a creature, circumstance, is plaguing your protagonist. And in a way, you as an audience member. I think all the best horror movies to me that include creatures, the creature in that film always represents what it is that the movie is about. So with a movie like The Babadook, for an example, there's the reason why that creature of the Babadook is so frightening to me is because it is just a physical representation of the grief that this mother attaches to the creature that she now feels as anger and hatred towards her kid. And there is a physical representation of that feeling that she's dealing with as a protagonist in this creature. And so it's a walking, talking proof that that feeling exists. And if you look at any of my favorite personal creatures throughout film history, like whether it be The Thing or The Fly, or anything like that, that is always a consistent through line. You have to understand what is scary about this movie to you as a writer, and then physicalize that if you're going to have a creature. There has to be purpose, in my opinion. Yeah. So.
Awesome. So now that we have a creature, how was the process of creating the creature and on the pre-production?
So I think the creature was a really difficult part because you're creating an entire monster, and obviously that's not very cheap. So one thing that we really lucked out on was the intention of getting artists and artists that maybe aren't at the specific level that they should be based off of the talents that they have. And we try to do that with every person that we bring on the set. And one person, and the only reason why we were even able to have a creature look as good as it did and feel as good as it did, was because of Corbin, Eric Corbin of Corbin's Creatures. We scouted this guy a while ago, and all of the work that he's been creating, and we've always seen the kind of potential that he has, because he is an artist. He is a special effects artist, and he's the kind of artist that his room looks insane. He has a studio and operates out of his room, and it's simply just out of pure love for the craft, and what he was able to do with only maybe $1,000, $2,000 was fucking insane. And I can't even fathom how good it was. He's somebody that's able to hear out your ideas and what you have that this creature might look like physically, and be able to form that on the spot.
He knows everything.
He knows everything.
He knows anything about everything.
I remember he was making like these tiny sculptures.
So the way that it worked is we had a preconceived idea of what what we wanted the creature to look like, right? So Gerald had an idea of what we wanted it to look like. I had an idea. Aaron had an idea. And we had to kind of workshop that between the three of us. Okay. So that way we came up with kind of a consistent idea. And so when we met with Corbin, he basically sat in front of us, put a block of clay in front of us. And he's like, okay, tell me what you see with this thing. And as we're talking, he's messing with it with his hands and with like little sporks and blah blah blah. And he's like, okay, maybe it can have this. Oh, maybe it has like a jelly neck. Oh, maybe it kind of looks like the dog that's missing. Okay, but whatever.
We're all like throwing out ideas. Like,
we're just throwing it at him. We're just throwing it at him. And then he turns it around, and it is like a physicalized version of exactly what we just saw. Because initially we were talking about like, I think he was using AI images just to come up with like what an idea of a creature could look like and as a direction, and we didn't really vibe with those. And it wasn't until we got in person that he showed us this block of clay, and we were all just like, that's fucking it. This is exactly the direction that we needed to go. And then from there on, he made it clear to us how much money he needed to see that idea to its completion. And and it was very important to me.
The money that we paid
him
was simply for the materials for him to make this thing. He received very little profit out of that. So pretty much he worked for a very small amount, even though we paid him a larger one. But it was simply because he just needed the tools to be able to do this, And fun, that part of the process, working with Corbin, was probably the most artistic part of the process. There, it's completely collaborative in every single sense.
I love the idea that this film includes a creature creature that is completely 100% original to the film.
Yep, we didn't purchase a mask from Spirit. You know, we didn't look up any special effects costumes that already existed.
It's not even directly inspired by anything.
It is completely on its own.
We try that like on purpose to like make it look different from like your typical movie monster that's just like a bald thing that's really long. And I think with Corbin, like we really made that happen. He's just an amazing guy. Like I think about him all the time. Like Eric Corbin gets up every day and he makes stuff, dude.
Yeah, you know what I would say, man. I want to be able to answer the question that you asked Gerald and Zach just a little bit on what I think that the creature represents. You know, because I think that I have a bit of a different idea for it. I think that the creature, I think what makes the creature so special, you know, isn't the physical, appearance of it and stuff. I think that what makes it so special is what it's able to do to you mentally. And the reason why this film isn't a slasher or isn't like, you know, a horror or gore kind of movie is because what we loved so much about it is the psychological bit of it, you know, and what the creature does to these characters. You know, what I loved so much about all of the scripts that Gerald's written in the feature film idea, it all has this idea of distrust. You know, what I loved about it so much and why I was excited to execute that visually was because you have these characters that have a certain relationship and we establish that. And as the movie goes along, you see this relationship start to crumble. And it's the creature that's doing that to them because the creature isn't physically able to just kill everybody in the house. The creature has to use, you know, its knowledge of inspecting humans, you know, and analyzing humans so that they can use the human qualities against each other, you know. And I love the ending of the movie so much because one of our characters makes a decision that completely represents the theme of the movie and why it ends up resulting in how it does. And you know, we don't show the creature very much in this film with that less is more approach, but what I loved so much and why I was so excited to execute it was because that creature is felt in every single shot of the movie. You know,
that was very important.
The creature is only seen in the end of the movie, but its presence is felt in every single shot. You know, and how we open the film, it's through the perspective of the creature, and everything is through the perspective of the creature, and you feel like this over sense of dread. One of the inspirations was in Nosferatu, you know, Orlok, like you can just feel the fear that these characters have of this guy before you even see him. So when he is revealed, it is like so terrifying just because you see how he makes everybody else feel. You know, the movie that we made, it's very dreadful. It's very dreadful. And all of that was intentional because that's what the monster represents in a sense, you know.
So, all right. So talking about pre-production, you know, when you're working on pre-production is making a lot of phone calls and trying to put the whole team together, you know, like location and all that. So who want to talk about it? Like what was the process of securing the location, securing the crew and everyone without having the money? Because I know that you guys didn't have the money available.
Yeah. I can talk about it. So a lot of it was using the resources that we had at our disposal. So when it came to crew and cast, it was, like I said, having a lot of conversations ahead of time about what the circumstances were going to be, including what the pay was going to be like, which was basically like the actors were making like $150 a day, which is pretty low for like an actor rate. But we made it really clear to them, like, these are the circumstances you're going to be staying in. We're going to make it as comfortable as we can, because we also like make it very important that you're taking care of like mentally as much as you can as well, which is something that is kind of an oversight I've noticed for actors on set and for crew on set as well. Understanding like, hey, this is going to be a very collaborative process. So, you know, if you want to be a part of it, then you can totally be a part of it. So sending emails, phone calls, discussing these different details. When it came to location, that was a little bit, that was kind of its own beast, because the way that we were going about that, in the short of it, was we were looking on Airbnb and just trying to find any properties that fit the description of what it is that we had in mind, which in Florida is not very many. So as we were looking at locations, we were talking about how we could adjust the story to fit our circumstance. And so we put together a collection of, you know, Airbnbs, and then I would reach out to the owners of the Airbnb through direct message through Airbnb, being like, hey, like, let's talk off of this website. I have this idea for a film. This is who we are, approaching it as professional as you can, and as like, don't come off so scammy. But like, hey, we have this idea. We really love your property. We would love to talk about possibly shooting it at your property, and of course pairing like compensating you as well as we can to do so. And so the people who were interested, I transitioned over to email. We had those conversations, and a lot of these places we even visited. That was mainly my job for the most part, taking trips to like Central Florida and St. Augustine and meeting these owners, talking to these people, you know, having as much open conversation as we could about the circumstances that we were trying to film in, telling them we're going to respect your property. We're going to change as little as possible. This is what we're going to do. We're going to move this furniture. We're going to take pictures and put it exactly back the way it is. This is how much you're going to get compensated. Everything. Lay out everything on the table. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, like, even talk to them about the story, because there were a couple owners of locations who actually just really loved movies, and they kind of just wanted to have their home featured in a movie that they thought was going to be really cool. So again, it comes back to this idea of like keeping up a standard of quality. Because that you don't realize how much that can help in the end. And finally, we were able to find a location together that we visited. We talked to the owner. We loved the location. We told him the circumstances that we were going to be staying in. This is how many people we're housing. This is how we're going to house them. This is how we're going to shoot it. We're not even going to feature this part of the house. We're just featuring this part of the house. And I think it helped. And we had a binder, by the way, like of everything. So I think it helped for the owner to feel more comfortable allowing us to use his residence, because we gave him everything that we needed.
Did he ask you for insurance? I can't remember that.
Yeah, he did. And so we had insurance, ready for that. And every question that he had, we had an answer to. Every single one.
So let's talk about little things.
Sure.
You know, water, food,
Mm-hmm.
coffee.
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you spend for 3 days for a crew of 15 people? It was about 15 people.
Great question. How much money
I
was
think
that?
it was somewhere.
We budgeted that out, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So with Crafty and with meals included, it was probably somewhere between like $200 to $500, something like that. Like we worked pretty well with it. I think
Costco.
Yeah, Costco. Like,
you know what I think?
That's the one to go. To be honest,
you know what I think is the more interesting part of the pre-production is that I see it, and we all see it as like when we actually get on the set. You know, we didn't have enough money for any additional days or any additional time, you know, so we had 3 days to cover a really large script and one like of the scale that we've never done before. And every single second mattered. So the months leading up to when the gun fires and we're ready to shoot, all of that we can waste time. All of that we have the ability to prepare for it, you know? So I think that pre-production is incredibly important. And I think that when people have such little time and such little budget, I think the only thing that you have is the pre-production, you know, is the time to plan it. And with this one, I like to think that we're very organized and nothing wasn't figured out. Every single lighting setup was figured out. I knew as soon as that we got on the set, I knew where every single light was going to be, where the camera was. Every single shot was planned out.
How much we were spending on coffee, how much we were spending on water, all that stuff.
We had shot diagrams and overhead diagrams, you know.
What kills a lot of sets is like when you're standing around and you're trying to figure out like what to do.
No, you don't have any time to figure it out.
Kills sets all the time. So
if you're trying to fit, and you know, in you know, improvisation is very important on the set because, you know, it's being spontaneous is very important. But the thing is with something like this is that we didn't have any time to sit around and be like, oh, okay, so how are we going to do this? Oh, maybe that, get this idea from this person. No, every single thing needed to be figured out, you know?
Also, shout out to Chris. Chris, is his last name Charles?
Yeah.
I'm terrible with last names, as you see. Chris Charles was such a huge help on set. He was our PA. But he was also our like runner. He was our like best boy. He was doing everything, and so for him, I don't even think you guys were made aware at the time. I've told you guys after, but he was making like 2-hour long drives.
No, I remember. Yeah, he drove all the way down to like here.
To find a piece of
one piece
yeah,
of
find
thing.
a piece of a camera. Was it that he drove down from Clewiston to West Palm and then right back up? Like
2 hours
and 30 minutes.
Again, it again proves like our team are full of amazing filmmakers and amazing collaborators who, and he also was doing it like, yeah, sure. Which car am I taking? And I was like, okay, cool. Like, here you go.
You know what I really liked? The ability on set. So we were going to be shooting on the weekend, like, for example, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we all came in on Thursday night. And one thing that was really smart that we did was we set up the set with all of the lights and all of the gear and all the C-stands and the wires and everything that we needed to do.
Design.
We didn't do it on the day of shooting. We did it the night before shooting, you know? And you can only do that when you have everything figured out. You know, so when we prepped the cabin for the shoot, we had scenes that we knew that we were going to shoot on the first floor, and we had scenes that we knew that we were going to shoot on the second floor. And in you knowing exactly how you're going to light every single shot, you're able to then set up all of the lighting the night before. So the night before, we had all of the lights already set up and everything already rigged downstairs and upstairs, so that by the time the gun fired and it's time to go on the shoot, we didn't have time being wasted even setting up a C-stand, even connecting a wire. Everything was already set up for us to just arrive on the day and click power on the light, click power on.
It was on a time that the sunset was around 6, 7, somewhere there, right?
Something like that, I think, at the time.
Yeah, because we were like, like right now at 5 p.m. there's like no lights, so I think
that was something that we took into account as well with him understanding what time sun rises and sunsets.
Yeah, and
that's how we built this schedule as well.
So you guys schedule all these like shots, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how about on pre-production? You know, part of the most expensive things are like equipment, right? Like, so how about the equipment? How do you get a lot of the equipment? Was from the school, from Warren's?
Yes. So the equipment, most of the equipment that we got was from just connections that we had. We did not have to rent anything. The only thing that we rented was the camera from the connection that we already had, Nathan Makita, who was our gaffer on the set. Because like I said, his Ari Alexa 35, he rents out to productions, and he gave us a rate of like 95% off, you know, which was insane, right?
That's a great deal.
But I know it is. And so the one thing that we've always utilized was the cage at our schools. So
we got the tripod, like a $30,000 tripod, remember?
Yeah, that thing is
we
beautiful.
got really expensive equipment though.
Yeah, for no money at all. So we went to Broward We went to Broward College in the film program, and Zach used to work in the cage of that film program, so he had access to all of this equipment. And once we didn't go to that school anymore, the connection that we kept was Nathan Makita, who is a professor at that school. So Nathan Makita can rent out as much equipment as he wants on that day, you know. So that's why it's so important developing these relationships, because now that he is going to be the gaffer on this film, he can rent out this equipment from that cage, and it's pretty much ours now, you know. So like I would like to say that 50% of the equipment was rented out from the Broward College film program cage. The other 20% was from you that you were able to provide for us, which we're really grateful for. And then another 20% was from Nathan Makita's personal inventory.
And also Warren, I think he brought a lot of
Warren brought a bunch of stuff.
The smaller stuff like that. Yeah, you know, we borrowed everything. We're borrowers. We're freeloaders. You know, that's what we are. We are thieving little rats that we freeload everything. You know what I mean? We don't choose like, okay, we're gonna shoot this big movie. All right, what do the big people do? All right, we're in the big leagues now, folks. So what do? Oh, they rent out this, they rent out that, they rent out that. Find a way to figure it out. And I that doesn't mean, oh, you can shoot it on an iPhone. You know what I mean? You can always do that, but if you are trying to reach this quality level, you can still do that very cheaply, and that comes from this. Our ability to, you know, develop relationships with people, you know what I mean? And I think that to be a good filmmaker, you can't be a shy person, you know, you can't be a reserved person. You need to be able to talk to somebody and to be able to sell yourself to somebody, you know?
And know where it is that you can like sneak your way in a little bit, because like he mentioned, I worked at the film cage, and I'm not going to make this whole story, but the only reason why I decided to work at the film cage was because I found out that if you work in the cage, you get to use the equipment for free.
Yeah, my guy was working for $10 an hour
simply
because he knew that he was going to get paid back in the amount of equipment.
Yeah, you got an agent inside.
Yeah, and it was a thing where I knew that if I developed a good relationship with the people who worked there, and also had this, that's the whole reason why we were able to make our first film, was because I started working at the film cage, and we now had all this equipment as opposed to having to rent anything.
And that's what people mean by like, you know, that's what people mean by like, you know, seizing the opportunity kind of thing. Like don't wait for opportunities to come for you. It's not like in a general sense. It's in the very specific details, you know, like, you know, manipulate your way into getting something, you know, like develop a relationship with the professor. You know, we could have just had Nathan be our professor and that was it. But the first day or the first week that we were going in his class, Zachary approached him and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you because I want to do this seriously." You know what I mean? And he made himself known. He started to develop that relationship with our professor. Yeah. And we wouldn't be where we are right now without his help. We wouldn't be where we are right now without your help, without the kind of effort that we put in to develop a relationship with you, you know? So it's like you provide things for somebody that you trust and somebody that you know, and you don't do that by just sitting around, you know? You do that by taking action, you know, by doing the thing that nobody else is doing. You know, we're in a class of like 25 people. Us three are the only people that are actually developing a relationship with the professor, you know, or are doing those things like working in the cage, you know. It sucks, and maybe it's not glamorous either. Oh, I want to be a filmmaker and I'm stuck doing this thing. That's okay, you know, like you're going to get something out of it. You need to always, you always need to see it as an investment. There's always an investment.
And you create the opportunity though, which is very important, you know. It's not like you're taking advantage of people, because some people can confuse that message into okay, they're taking advantage of everyone. It's not that way. It's like you create the opportunity, people see the goal and they want to help you, you know, because they like the project and your goals and everything.
And understand how it is that you can do favors for other people too, so that way, you know, like you develop a good working relationship with somebody. That's all that it is.
You pay it back in dividends.
That is great. So any piece of advice you want to give to someone who wants to work on a short film and pre-production can be kind of a struggle?
The number one thing I'll always mention is ask how to do it. Like ask people who have done it before how they did it. That's it. Because the thing is there are other filmmakers who have talked to us about like at film festivals that we've been at, who are like, "Hey, I'm thinking of making a short film. How were you able to do this? How were you able to do that?" And I'm telling them everything. This is how I did it. Now, I don't know if this is the correct way to do it, but it worked for us. Yep. So understand like the idea of what it is that I did as a producer and what it is they did as writers, cinematographers, and directors, and put together the only thing I'll always say is put together a team of people who you can trust, who are as motivated as you. If you don't have that, then just understand what it is that's required of you, and understand also this is not like... This really is a labor of love, and I've said it before. If I wasn't doing it with them, I wouldn't be doing it at all. So understand why it is that you're trying to do it, and take advantage of the resources and opportunities you have around you. Create them wherever it is that you can, and also, you know, you got to freeload. Sometimes you cannot be shy of asking people for money or for favors. You just can't. And hearing no is much better than not hearing anything at all. You know, so that's what I have to say.
Anything else you want to add, guys?
About that, each of us should answer that question.
Yeah, it's all doable at the end of the day. So, you know, keep telling yourself that, because I remember like starting out being really small. And you think about making a movie with a bunch of people and a bunch of money, it's kind of intimidating. But if you just remember, it's all doable. There's a solution to all the problems. You know, it's all, you'll find a way. You know, it's all doable.
I think, you know, it's not about money. I think it's about currency, you know, and you provide currency in different ways, you know. So if you don't have money, then your currency needs to be the passion. You know, so you need to make something that you are passionate about, and passion will take you all the way. You know, if you're second guessing yourself, then that's going to be seen, and no one's going to trust you, and they're not going to put all that effort into it, because at the end of the day, they're not getting paid what they're worth. You know, in our position right now, people that we work with, we're never going to pay them right now what they are worth, and we understand that. So that means that we need to pay them in other ways, you know. And I was just recently talking to somebody who's trying to make a short film, and it's pretty ambitious for the state that they are in, you know. And I'm just telling them that the only way that I was able to get to where I was is simply because every single day I wake up and I have a burning passion to do that, and that is felt from everybody involved, you know. So I think that is your biggest currency in the moment. It's not about money, it's not about equipment, it's not about who you are. It's simply just about the idea that you're trying to execute and how passionate you are about that idea. And then people will jump on that because people want to work on something with somebody that is completely passionate about what they're trying to accomplish.
Wow, so proud of you, bro. How you talk that way?
Yeah,
I want to talk that way. Wow.
Yeah, man.
Well, all right. Let's take a pause after that statement. I don't have anything else to say. You guys did great. Now we're gonna go into production, and then like final statements on the future projects. But I think it's a moment to take
a break.
Take a break.
Ooh, that was awesome.
All right, guys. Let's talk about production now. Like one of the most scary thing is when you have everything planned out and then you're gonna go into production and then you have all these people and all the props and equipment and everything. So let's talk about that. So who want to start?
I can start for the most part. I think for us, production, in terms of getting everything started, we had already had experience in understanding how much stuff can go wrong. And so because of that, when we went into this project, the name of the game was preparation for us. And we spent months and months and months preparing down to the smallest little detail. I think if we skimped out on that, we wouldn't have gotten the film that we did. There were pretty much like we had prepared everything so meticulously that once we got to set, it was kind of like we were following the game plan for pretty much every little bit of time, even preparing certain backup plans that we had in place. That was basically me and Aaron Luna who were doing a lot of that, understanding and communicating to one another. Here are all the things that could go wrong, and finding backup plans for each of those things, and then also understanding like there are going to be things that come up that we're not expecting to go wrong that are going to go wrong. So because of that, what's kind of the chain of command? Like who's in charge of what thing? If there's something wrong with scheduling, who's in charge of that? If there's something wrong with like we don't have enough coffee anymore, who's going to be doing that? Like, and so a lot of it was we knew that we didn't have a lot of money or a lot of time to make up for a lot of these mistakes. So what we had to do is we just had to over prepare in a way. So once we got to set, I feel like we weren't super like as anxious or nervous or stressed out as we could have been. Obviously, there's still this level of expectation you have for yourself for how it is you're going to perform. But we had a lot of conversations, the three of us, just about how it is we were going to operate. With them being co-directors, how is it that they're going to communicate? We had probably over 10, 15 meetings worth of time talking about how they were going to communicate and how they were going to communicate to people like you and to people like me and whoever else was on set. Like, who was going to talk to actors? How are we going to talk to actors? How are we going to make sure we're not conflicting information? How am I going to communicate to them in a way that doesn't take them out of the rhythm that they're naturally going to create for themselves? And how's Aaron going to do it as well, Aaron Luna? And I think we planned everything out for the most part, that even when things did go awry, which a couple times it did, we knew how to handle it, and we weren't really
efficiency is like super important. I've been on a lot of sets where like the biggest problem is that somebody like just didn't plan something. So the less you have to figure out on set, like the better. And you can sit there and like plan for anything, and it saves so much like headache just to have everything like prepared. That's gonna go out the window. Like something's gonna go wrong that you didn't plan for, but you're gonna be calm about it because you've spent the entire production like adhering to a plan.
Yeah, I think creating a plan for the set, doesn't. I think a lot of the times it could also limit you as well, because things are going to go wrong and you kind of have to prepare for that. So when things do go wrong, don't freak out when you have to change your plan. Keep in mind like the intention of what you're doing and why you set this kind of structure for the set, so when things happen that are out of your control, you can always go to the North Star of like the kind of vibe that you want and the kind of like things that you set up for the set as well. I think all of us, me, Zach, and Gerald, have experience being on sets, and we've had bad experiences on it too, so coming from being a crew member, what makes maybe a poor director or maybe a poor cinematographer or something, and when things go wrong, how does this person react to this, and I think that this industry has a lot of ego, and I think that when you set up a good cast and crew, ego kind of goes out of the door, because no one is meeting each other for the first time. One thing that I really liked that I did in preparation for the set, and I think this is really important, that I don't think anybody would have decided that this is important enough to do. But the day before we got everything ready in the cars and we drove up to Clewiston and getting ready for the set, I purchased 15 like cards, like greeting cards and message cards. And I kind of spent like 2 hours just in my room writing a personal message to every single person that is on that set. And not just a thank you so much for your contribution, we really appreciate you being a part of it. No, it was for Raphael, a very personal note as to why I chose you to be my camera operator and why I trust you to do your job. For our gaffer, Nathan, thank you so much for everything that you provided for us. Like your efforts are not going unnoticed. For somebody that has met us for the first time, for example, Gley Vieira, Crystal Millie Valdez, and Gabriel Salgado, they've never worked with us before, and maybe there can be some doubt that they have that, why was I chosen for this? There are specific actors that might have more doubt than others, and it's just reminding people why you've been chosen, and a personal message to them. And on the very first day of set, before everyone got started, I just wanted to give these greeting cards and these message cards to every single person, and everybody opened it up at the same time and read it. And in a way, it kind of just broke the ice. And I think it's really important to break the ice on set. It's really important for people, it's kind of cheesy and cliche to be like, oh, we're a one big family. But on a project like this, you need to be. On a project like this, when you're camping up with people for 3 days straight and you're sleeping with these people and you're putting in 15 to 20 hours a day working with these people, everything becomes so much easier when these people know each other and are comfortable with each other. So in each person being seen in that way and reminded as to, I was chosen to be on this set for this reason, and whatever decision I make is going to be trusted by our team. Yeah. I think that is the most important thing.
I think along with that, it was really important that we share meals with one another. I think it's really important that if any of us are planning to go out to eat, let's do it as a group. Let's spend time with one another. Let's get to know one another, have these conversations, learn a little bit more about each of the members. It's one of the best parts of being independent filmmaking.
Yeah, and this isn't the romantic part of being on set.
Do you know what? I want to say something about that, man. Yeah, that really makes a difference, because I remember when I opened the letter and I read the message, and I'm like, wow. It means a lot to me, and I think like the same for everyone else. So the other thing that you mentioned about eating together, I'm kind of like lonely wolf when I'm going to eat. I like to eat fast and keep doing my thing. And I remember when I was eating somewhere there, you were like, hey, Rafael, what are you doing? Come here. Yeah. You were calling me. I'm like, all right. And we started talking and sharing a little bit more.
Being a good person,
it's important.
Being a good person is important in every single decision that you make along through the film, you know what I mean? And it comes out, and it's time to be shown when you're on the day, you know what I mean? Because you can build relationship with somebody, but the thing is that everybody knows as soon as you're on set, you get a different side of everyone, and rightfully so.
It's a version of that person that is under the most pressure.
The most pressure possible, yes. So a good director is somebody that doesn't crack ever, because when you are leading the ship, everybody is feeling so anxious. And if you show that you don't have things under control, even when things are not under control, and even when things are not under control and you can admit that, but still keep your cool, everybody on the ship is reassured of that and knows, no, don't worry, we're covered. We got it. We're covered. It's about confidence.
So what one thing, is very, and I'm more on like on the human part, 100%.
Yeah.
But one thing I do on the set is like everyone understand the games. Like, hey, we're working. You need to understand that we're working. You're gonna start like fooling around and making games because it's gonna affect the production. So one thing that I wanna know is like how you handle when everyone got like super relaxed. Like how you guys handle it.
No, that's a good question, actually.
I think
What do you mean super relaxed? Like
once people start to kind of loosen up and maybe not be on top of things as much as they need.
That's kind of done in like the hiring process. I wouldn't work with people who like would do that. Like you kind of, the people that you're around are like they're always like on it. Like they're clocked into a certain degree and like.
No. Let me just let me reformulate the question.
Right.
We're all artists, and as an artist, we like to talk. But we have a schedule. And I remember there were some moments that we were just talking about and how passionate we were about the film and everything. And that kind of delays some of the moments. How you guys handle it to go back on track?
People do that to like decompress because I'm the same way too. Like I would join in on those conversations, but there's this like silent understanding. There's this like ticking clock that everybody has that like, all right, we want to like do the movie, so that's kind of part of it. That's kind of like you go along with it because people like need to do that. You don't want to like pressure people into doing things that they don't want to do. It's good to maintain like a good vibe and environment. It's almost makes it normal. Like with my actors and stuff, like we joke around all the time, and like that's how we communicate and like work.
I think it was important to be very clear and honest with people about things too. I wish Erin Luna was here because she was the one who was mainly handling that on set and then communicating it to me. I made sure that I kind of took like kind of a step back away from the production so I can take care of the stuff that I needed to, but also to be able to kind of like keep a level head with certain things. So whenever I would have conversations with people on set, it felt more like, how do you say, like calm and collected about things, but stern as well. I knew for me, like there were a couple conversations I needed to have on set about maybe like maintaining focus a little bit. Not necessarily because somebody wasn't focused, but more so just reminding people like, hey, like this is kind of the time that we're working with. Here's the update that we have. A lot of it was mainly with them. Just about like, hey, here's the update of the circumstances that we're dealing with. We might have to pivot this thing. We might have to pivot that thing. Understand that if we're going to take time to do certain things like this, extra time that we didn't need to spend on certain things, that is going to take away from something else that we initially intended to do. So I think just helping people understand, you don't have to scold people to be like, hey, get the fuck off your phone. Like, it's not so much that
it's super rude. What I'm saying is like sometimes what happens on a set is like everyone gets too relaxed. Sure. Usually when I'm charged on a set, I'm trying not to play with like pretty much being on my zone and helping everyone, understanding like how you're doing today, how are you feeling, do you need more water, do you want to go to the restaurant, like taking care of each individual and seeing the human, which is what you did. You guys see like the human behind the profession. Wow, bro, like that is something that you don't see very often.
Isn't it funny how basic of a consideration that might be, but how rare it can be.
You know what I would say, man, to play devil's advocate for these two answers, I do understand what you mean. I think that, even though we had an incredible crew, we have incredible people that are really great at what they do, and they can lock in. At the end of the day, when you develop a relationship with people that they feel comfortable with you, there could be a sense of relax. And it's not disrespectful. It's simply just an energy thing. Energy is constantly changing throughout a set. You have 15 hours. And every 20 minutes there can be a new energy, And the thing is that being a good director is being able to be aware of the energy that is currently happening, and being able to either direct it into a place that you want, or knowing when to accept that energy and kind of like and bask in it, I think that I'm a director that maybe the thing that I want to work on is being able to adapt to a loose energy also, because I always like to be locked in. I feel the weight of me. I feel the weight on me constantly. But you know what? How I think is a great way to execute being able to kind of push everybody back to being quote unquote on track is just reformulating the plan, letting everybody know the plan again. You know, I think people get relaxed on set when they don't know what the plan is. You know, when they know, oh yeah, they're just setting up a setup over there, you know, so we have some time to kind of just goof around, gaff, you know, to joke around, which is perfectly fine. But when you give something to someone for them to do, they know that they don't have the time to kind of goof around. They know that they have to get this thing done. So it's about being able to explain yourself and have every single person on set, whether they're a PA or they're an assistant director, the person who knows what's going on at all times, being able to, you know, instill the plan into these people, you know? So if you feel that the energy is starting to die down a bit, people are starting to get relaxed, you know, have a meeting again. Hey guys, we're thinking of doing this for this plan. We need to do this. We need to get this done. And this needs to happen here, you know? And everybody gets on track because everybody's a part of the same plan. And we know this because we work on sets. We work on large sets as well. Sometimes as small care, you know, maybe we work as a production assistant on a big set, you know? So what that means is that you have a lot of downtime. You know, people say go F off and go do this, you know, like, oh, just go do this busy work, you know, so you're not aware of the plan that's in place. It's
really bad for morale when you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
you're
that's
not
a huge thing
to the project.
That is a huge thing. That is a huge thing. And then you start, when you have no idea what's going on, then you start making yourself busy in your own way. You know what I mean? So it's about communication is what it is. Communication is how you keep people on track when they start to get relaxed, you know? I think that's my answer.
I think that's a good answer.
I do love that. Now, one thing that I want to talk about is challenges. What was like the biggest challenge you guys face on the production part of the movie?
So it wasn't a general challenge. What it was I have a very specific answer. It was that on the first day, we had I'd like to call it opportunity. But it was more so like a roadblock, like an obstacle of working with a dog actor. Now the thing is, that was our first setup. That was the very first setup, was working with the dog that is in this movie. And that dog is not a professional. Although she's very obedient, she is still a dog and doesn't understand what's going on. So trying to work around her and her own personal internal clock was really complicated.
That was pretty complicated.
And it took a long time. And with it being our very first setup, I felt like there's a part of you that worries, like, ooh, this might be like a sign of bad things to come. But I think the good thing is that all three of us understood. Again, we prepared for this. We prepared for it. What's it going to be like if this takes a lot longer than we think it's going to take, which it did. But we already knew that was kind of going to happen. So what happened was, we got through that setup. We got through the rest of the day. Okay. We were really behind, like really, really behind schedule at the end of that first day. We made it very clear that for us three and for Aaron Luna, who's the assistant director, us four were going to have a meeting. And we made sure not to really like tell any of you guys that we're behind. Just more so like, let's come together. Let's make sure that we're all on the same page, us four, because us four are the captains of this ship, of each individual, you know, little area that's happening on this set. And so us four talked about it at the end of the first day, and it was basically me communicating to them two, hey, we're behind. Because of that, you have option A, which is cut these things and keep those things, or option B, cut these things and keep those things. Which one do you want? And because something has to happen. You're not going to be able to squeeze what we lost into what it is into the time that we have left. What's gone is gone. The time is lost. We're not getting that back. So because of that, I presented those options to them, just helping them understand the circumstances. There are certain things we cannot cut because or else the movie will not happen. One thing that's very important to me as a producer is sometimes helping them, because they're within the rhythm of filmmaking, is to not take them out of that and not make them feel bad for having lost time. Like, I'm not going to sit there and talk to them for 30 minutes. We need to be on schedule. We need to do. They already know that. I'm confident in them knowing that. It's just sometimes because of unforeseen circumstances or because of just happenstance, you end up behind schedule. It's almost guaranteed you're going to at some point. So I told them ahead of time, there's going to be a moment that I'm going to present these options to you guys, and you guys just need to be clear as to which one it is that you want to do. And so we already had these in mind. Like, we ordered the shots from most necessary to least necessary. Here are the shots that we need, and here are the shots that we want. The ones that go first are the ones that you want, unfortunately. Like the really cool ones that don't end up in the movie. And I'm going to be so honest with you, I don't even remember what those are at this point.
I do.
Like, he does. These two do. There are certain things that they really wanted to be in the movie.
I do.
Well, so that one scene, there's a scene, when there's a knock on the door and they go and inspect the door and everything. That scene was supposed to be covered in around 4 shots and different coverages for each of them. Because of time and because we were behind schedule, we had to cut 3 of those 4 shots, and we had to cover that entire scene in one Steadicam shot. And I'm not super confident. Like, I'm not confident that was better than what the original plan was, but I'm able to put those things behind me and not feel like the movie is ruined because of it. But the movie did definitely take a quality hit, in my opinion.
That was.
But that's how you live and you learn.
See, do you really feel that?
I agree with that.
It's like their job to.
I think. Listen, when I watch the movie, I don't feel it. I think it's probably because you have this vision in your head and you imagine and you dream it, and then. But I feel it's perfect though.
I appreciate that.
That's what we try to do. Is like, all right, what's essential in this scene? But there was a movie in our heads. Yeah. Because I feel it when I see that scene too. I'm like,
that scene. It's always that scene.
That's the thing though, which is it's their job to experience that grief after, which shows how passionate they are about that initial vision. Yeah. But the thing is they have the unfortunate job of having to accept that on set, and they're comparing it to the movie that exists in their head. But the thing is to me and to you and to anybody else who isn't them, there is no movie we're comparing it to. We're only getting the movie that we're seeing. And so it's my job to communicate to them, hey, I know you want to make the movie that you see in your head, but the problem is that's not the movie we have time for anymore. And if you want a movie at all, you got to pick.
Hey man, at the end of the day, if we got those 3 shots in that scene, we wouldn't have got the other 3 shots in the scene following that. And I would rather choose those shots that we did get. So I don't think that we could have done it in any better way in the circumstances that we were put in. I just, to answer the question, I just definitely think that was a sacrifice that we had to make. But I think that we had to make that sacrifice in any point of the movie. And I like the point of the movie that we chose to make that sacrifice in, because we chose the scene where it wasn't necessary to cover to need all those things.
That was the biggest challenge as far as like the circumstances that happened. But I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about this because you still bring it up to this day, which was, I feel like the most difficult thing that we had to do was really that last scene. The very last scene felt like the most challenging filmmaking that they had to be a part of from an outside perspective.
That was definitely
the last scene before wrapping up the whole movie, right?
Yeah.
I remember
the hallway scene.
I needed to go, and I remember that Warren took over because I was way behind.
Right.
Well,
I wasn't there. I wasn't there for that part of the ending.
Oh, really? Where were you again?
I was wrapping up everything because I got an appointment in there.
Oh, yeah,
you had to leave.
Right.
Yeah.
I had to wake up at 6 a.m. And I think, what time we finished?
It
like
was,
2 a.m.?
It was like in the a.m.
Yeah.
It was in the a.m.
Well, you know that scene is the scene to me and Gerald where we're like, if we don't have this scene, we don't have the movie.
Yeah.
And it came to a point, if we can just be honest and real, because there's points like this that every filmmaker, feels, and we're not perfect and we don't want to paint that picture. So that scene, we were very not satisfied with it for a lot of it, and when we felt, me and Gerald, we kept like saying to ourselves very silently, being like, we don't have a movie. We don't have our movie. Like, we just don't have it.
And it's like the last shot. It's like we're running out of time and everybody's coming up to me like, we're out of time. Yeah. I'm trying to do math in my head to like, all right, it's not working. Why isn't it working?
You know what?
Tell me what was the scene though when he used to walking with the rifle?
I mean, look, to make a good-looking monster, it's like $2,000. To make a monster that moves well, that's another $2,000. So it's like we didn't have a lot of time working with the actress in the suit. So when we saw her moving around, we're like, oh, hold on, we need like a whole other day. But it was like the last day, and she couldn't see. God bless her soul, but she couldn't see.
She couldn't breathe.
She couldn't see a gosh darn thing out of that.
Yeah, that was a difficult thing.
That was a very grueling process that we put her in, and that Jam, bro.
She was
Give
a
her
great
all the
sport
props.
about
She
it.
was a very great sport about her. Sylvie.
Yeah.
She was amazing. But anyways, yeah, so it was just one of those things where I heavily relied on my crew to be able to help us in that moment, because
Yeah.
also, if we're talking about a mental state, that was probably the worst mental state that I was in throughout the whole shoot, you know, just from the weight of everything up to that moment.
I remember something
Yeah.
very challenging
Yeah.
when we were filming The Creature, because I did film The Creature.
Yeah.
I just didn't film like the ending
Yeah, the
of
ending,
it.
yeah.
So one thing is like, because of my high, when I was having the shoulder ring with the camera, I keep showing something you didn't want me to show, was the heels or something like that. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't get it. Like imagine I have to crunch down with that heavy camera like
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
and
yeah.
trying to get the shot. The shot to not show her heels. So that was a very difficult shot.
Yeah, because
and I
that
remember
suit-
that you took it and you
Yeah.
were perfect. Your height was perfect with the camera and everything. You're
Well,
like,
you know what? I want
get it.
to.
So,
I want to talk a bit about that too, because the thing is that me as a person and me as a director, you know, I got to where I am now because I have the ability to do everything myself, you know, or at least I feel that way. But the thing is that, you know, when going into this set, my biggest goal as a director was being able to rely on my crew and you know, give them the responsibility. And one thing that I've never done in any film that I did in this film was not operate the camera. You know, I was still the DP and the co-director along with Gerald, but I wasn't the camera operator. And I felt completely confident because I knew who you were, and I worked with you many times, and I was very confident that you were able to do that. But the thing is that, yeah, for that creature suit, we didn't have any feet built for it. So she was wearing high heels. We had to choose between two creature actors. One guy that was like 7'12",
super tall.
like
He was
8
like
feet.
6'11".
He was like 6'11", right? Which is great because, you know, a tall creature is what we wanted, which is great. But he didn't have the movement right. Or we chose this small girl who moved perfectly, and we ended up making that decision, and we're confident with it. But at the end of the day, we still needed to put height on this creature, so we had her wearing black Steve Madden heels, you know. So it's one of those things where we can't see that, you know. So yeah, I ended up having to control the camera, and I liked how it came out.
yeah, I mean, I tried like 3 times. It just wasn't like. I mean, if you have like a Steadicam, like actual Steadicam, I can do it. But the thing was like having it on my shoulder and kind of like walk like crunch
Yeah, you're
down
tall.
was it was.
And to
I mean, I'm not
crunch
that
down.
tall, but it was kind of challenging for the angle you were looking for.
You're pretty tall, Raph.
For me. Nah.
Yeah, but you know what?
We're
Also,
just short.
also another scene that I had to operate. It wasn't out of like necessity that I needed to operate this
Brother,
one.
I love
This-
that scene.
I know. The
with
room scene.
blood and
Yeah.
do you know that I have a full behind the scene me grabbing the camera, grabbing you, and trying to hold myself. I was doing like
That's
3
awesome.
things.
Yeah.
I think I was holding you, and then I was holding the camera because
Yeah.
you say, "Oh, hold the camera, hold the camera," and then you were like going back, and I'm like,
I
"Hold the
remember
camera,"
that.
and
I actually
and
remember that. Yeah. Well, so that was the only scene that I was like, I want to operate this one. It wasn't that I needed
Yeah.
to. I wanted to, and it's because that was a scene where, you know, the shot of Gabriel leaning over Glay in that scene, I needed to get that shot because it was with a wide lens. He was really like right in front of the camera, and in operating that, you know, it was on a tripod. It was on a hi-hat tripod, but the head was loose and it was fluid, so it wasn't handheld, but it was completely fluid, so I was able to move it however I wanted to. And that was, I think to this day, still my favorite time operating any camera in any film that I've made, because just the pure emotion in that scene and being so close to the actor in that scene, and I was just staring at the monitor, and his face felt like it was right in my face, and it was such an intense scene, and he put everything into it, so much emotion into it, that
So did
by the
Glay.
end, so did Glay, and by the end, when we called cut, like I had tears streaming down my face, because the moment that scene is so intense, and I was pretty much in the perspective of Glay. I was pretty much laying down in the ground and he was leaning over me.
Yeah,
So
I
I had to
do
take a
remember.
break after that shot. After we were done with that shot, I had to take a break, and I had to like wipe my tears. I had to like take a breath, because it was just so emotional, and that was my favorite moment I've ever had shooting.
Do you know what? I have to tell you something. Every time I watch the film and I see that scene, I feel something like something broken.
I know, broken.
Inside.
It's heavy, man, is what it is. It's heavy, and I don't think that scene would be as heavy if we didn't build up, you know, the 10 minutes leading up to it. Because the thing about this film, and we didn't really get to talk about like the overall of the movie, we're talking about the process, but you know, the thing about this film is that from minute 1 to minute 10, it is simply a shoestring being pulled. It's a rope being pulled. It's a piece of elastic being pulled, and it only breaks in the last minute of the movie. So the entire movie is simply just tugging on that rope, and when that scene happens, it's breaking the rope. So that's why it feels so powerful, you know. And that's what our intention was the whole time, is making a very subtle movie until the very last scene where it all comes down. And that's why I think it's an award-winning Ariel Films picture.
Yeah. So if you guys have a time machine and you can go back in time, will you change anything?
Oh, that's a question for them.
For one, I would make them not say the name of the movie in the movie. I don't know, like that really bothers me. When I was writing it, I thought it was a great idea. Yeah, it's a me thing, and
I can't remember that part. When did you say?
Because it doesn't exist.
It's at the beginning of the movie, right? Because when I was writing it, I do the title last, and you know when they're talking at the table, and he's like, "Don't worry, she'll come back," and it's something for me where I'm like, "Oh God." Ugh. I would have changed that.
He's been okay. So I don't want to undercut his feelings towards it, but this has been consistent since day one, and it's always been me also since day one being like but it's not noticeable. Like it's not a thing.
To be honest, I didn't realize.
Whoops.
But that's a thing that only he's going to experience and know, which is like, you know.
So I've been thinking about my answer, and I found out what my answer is. So if I had a time machine, and I have two answers. If I had a time machine to go back in time, both of them just have to deal with lighting. You know, I think that I could have done a better job as a DP lighting 2 shots. And the first shot is the shot of Michelle kissing the dog and walking into the room. That was the very first setup of the film, when Zach was talking about how behind we were because the dog and just being able to work with the dog. But I think that being the first lighting setup of the day, I just think that I lit that very flat, and I could have had more contrast in it, because it is kind of the opening of the movie in a way. And every time I see that shot, I just think it's so flat, and I've tried to work with it in post-production, but it's simply just the thing is that the nature of that first floor of the cabin is just very white walls and plain, and we just had to work with it, you know. And I just think I could have lit that a lot better. And also another lighting thing that I would change is that shot that I was talking about of the door and them walking to the door. You know, it was by the principle that I had, which is just kind of lighting to the windows and keeping it natural. But I could have had a bit more fill in those characters, because they kind of do get lost in the dark.
Okay, so one thing that I wanna tell you about that is, like, I remember that we talk about the lighting on the dog. Like I say, hey, do you want to add something to this scene? And you were like, yeah, no, we don't have time. So it was more about the time. I don't think it was like because of any decision like being made there by you. Yeah. But you did a great job, man, as a DP. So I want to ask you a question now that you're talking about DP and directing. How do you switch between those roles?
Oh man, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have my co-director Gerald here, you know, because the thing is that we talked a lot, and it was a lot of preparation about who handles what roles, you know. And I think I have a very strong opinion on co-directors in general. A lot of people, you know, take on co-director positions because they don't know how to split creative control. That's not the reason why we did it. It wasn't because we wanted equal creative control. It was because if you're in a co-director position, it's because you trust that each person contributes, you know, to that role in their own unique way, you know. And I think it's a thing where, you know, this movie couldn't have been directed by just me, and it couldn't have been directed by just Gerald, you know. I think that me being able to switch on and off of DP and director was simply because I had my man over here covering me at all times, you know. I think that I think I was in control of the environment and the vibe of the movie and the feeling and the tone and everything, and I think I did a good job executing that with the actors as well. But Gerald like really took on the position of being able to work with these actors, and so while I was communicating to my crew in my heads of, you know, you on camera and Nathan on lighting and everything, while I was doing that, because the thing is I could have done both, you know. I could have been like, oh, working with these people on the lighting and then jumping to these actors, but the thing is that we didn't have enough time for that. So me being able to work with the lighting and being able to communicate those things simultaneously, you have another head now talking to the actors, you know. At all times it's me communicating to the crew and Gerald communicating to the actors, and we switched on and off. He played a big role, in talking to the crew, in getting people and in leading the fleet, but we switched on and off with that, and I also talked with the actors a lot, but there was able to be simultaneous work being had.
Yeah, like every decision that we made was like agreed upon. Like we talked about everything prior. I always like refer to it as like Pacific Rim. Like we had to be like on the same page. Yes. So like every shot, every like character thing that they do, that's a whole discussion that we have where it's like, I think they should do this. Yeah, they should do that. Maybe a bit of this, maybe a bit of that. And it's all pre-planned and pre-agreed on. And it's like, you know that it's handled, and it's a great feeling being like, oh, someone's got it.
And we were incredibly aware of what it could look like if two co-directors are not on the same page. We were very aware of what that could look like, so we made so much attempts for it not to be that way, and it just means that we were just glued by the hip. Me and him were looking at the same thing on the monitor and communicating with the whole time. We're just like, to go for another take? You want to go for this? And he's like, okay, got it. All right, we're gonna go for another take. You know what I mean? That's amazing, we communicate to each other, and then there's one person that communicates that to the. He always talked to the actors, and I always talked to the crew, kind of thing. Gotcha. So it's like if we had an actor, we'd be like, maybe she could do a bit of that. Maybe that. All right, got it. Gerald now. All right, and Gerald goes, all right, hey Glay, would you be able to do a little of this, a little bit of that? And it went through both of us. And then when it became a crew thing, we would communicate to each other, and then I would say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we would kind of switch on and off of. But the thing is that it needed to be coming from one person. It can't be a thing where it's like, well, this person just told me this, and now you're telling me that.
You don't want to do that.
Immediately, whole thing is shit. Whole thing is gone.
Bad, yeah, because then, sorry, they're split. Yeah.
Okay, so and this is like for a short answer. If you have one piece of advice making a short film stand out, what will it be?
For me?
Yeah, for each of you.
Making sure that your crew and your actors are at a standard that you feel is equal to the idea that you have in your head. Making sure that you understand your vision well enough to communicate it to those talented people, take advantage of those talented people as much as you can, but the idea needs to be clear. And do not sacrifice the quality of your film to get things done, but be mindful and be prepared. Like, that's the number one thing. So that's how I feel.
So making a short film stand out, I think if you want your short film to stand out, then it all starts with the idea and the intention of why you're making that short film, and that can be read immediately. People understand why you are making a movie from the jump, and they can see if it's through an authentic way or not. So I think that no matter what story you're telling, it just needs to be the one that you're like aching to make in that moment, because like I said before, the passion is the currency when you're making a short film, because if most of the time if you're making a short film, it's because you don't have the ability in the moment to make a feature, So I think that, when you're making a short film, it just needs to be an idea that you are burning to make, and that would lead you through the entire way. I think how you make a short film stand out also, I think that just completes my answer. You can go to Gerald.
Okay.
Right. Be ambitious, but be deliberate. If I could go back and like tell myself, like, you get $10,000 for this movie, I would have made it like a lot more huge and a lot more complex, but it wouldn't have been this movie. It wouldn't have been what it was. So, when you're being ambitious, you have to have like a plan. You can't just be big for the sake of being big, like you have to have something concrete that you're working towards. And there was another thing I was going to touch on. What was the full question again?
That like what is your piece of advice of making a short film stand out?
Make it stand out. Pay attention to like what the state of the industry is in that moment. Pay attention to like what it is that people are watching, what's going on. And then it's as simple as like, let's do something different, right? Ooh. If everybody's watching this, aren't they going to get tired of it? Aren't they going to want something else? Like, don't try to just keep up with the trend. Try to be the next trend, and ask yourself, like, what's a movie I don't see? Why don't I see that movie? Is it because it's bad, or is it because nobody wants to do it?
Well, that's a very good answer.
Yeah. See, and that ties into the whole being deliberate while being ambitious. Like, don't just be big for the sake of being big. Like, go somewhere, have somewhere to go with that. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, that's actually great. I think to piggyback off that, yes, I think, decide what movie you want to make and be aware of what people are currently seeing in that moment. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
Let's talk about festivals. Mm-hmm. How was your experience going to these festivals, watching your movie for the first time on the big screen?
I think it was the reason why we made it. This film, I think, stands out from all of our other ones because this one was the one that was made for the purpose of being screened in a theater, and I think that, you know, we kind of stand by that. I think people released their films online too early. I think that they don't give their audience a chance to experience the film as they wanted it to be experienced enough, you know, and I think that being aware of the first time that someone is seeing your movie is very important, you know, and I think hype up, you know, the screenings as much as you can. Make it as if you're screening your feature film in AMC across the street, you know, hype it up that way because it should be seen that way because you spent all this time to make it that way. And my experiences so far with screening it, I've completely loved the receptions that we've gotten so far from people that have watched it. You know, I think that it always strikes a visceral reaction out of them, and I think that this movie stands out to people because of how they felt. You know, people are going to remember how they feel. You know, they're not going to remember what they saw or what they heard. You know, they're going to remember how this scene made them feel, and that's why they're going to remember the movie, you know. And we made this movie to be felt. You know, we made a thriller, and thrillers just make you feel a reaction, you know, and that's what we've done. And I think it's been great. I think my advice is be very technical too. Don't just, you know, make your movie and then send it out on a Google Drive to the festival for them to screen it. You know, be cautious about it. Not many people talk about that enough on how they're screening their movies. You know, be involved in every part of the process. As a good director, you should be involved in every part of the process. You shouldn't just finish your movie and send it off. You know, like. What I learned is that not enough people are involved in the screening process, and I think it's important to be a part of the process of exporting your film and transferring it to a DCP to be read in a projector and testing those DCPs on those festivals, you know, because this is how people are going to see your movie. And I think that you should be the first person to see how that film is being screened in this specific theater with this theater specific sound system, and just making sure that it looks and feels exactly how you want it to. And I think it's just a bit of the perfectionist in me, but I think it's necessary.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid point. We were on this film festival in Fort Lauderdale, and one of the films failed because of the bad export or something like that happened.
Failing is the worst case scenario, but you know what's another one that doesn't get talked about enough is color spaces not matching. You know, and you spend so much time color grading this movie that you know it gets seen in the wrong way. That sucks.
So the festival experience for me has been really interesting. It's been challenging, I think. I'm gonna be very honest here. I don't know if you're gonna keep it. It's really difficult for me to watch other people's movies, especially in competition states, because I have this natural competitiveness in me where I'm just like, I'm there for my movie and I'm there for my movie to win because I'm super committed to this idea of being successful. I think it's been a learning process for me because I'm trying to be more open to the idea of accepting other people's art in that way next to mine. I think outside of that, the part that makes me feel really happy is the people I get to meet and actually having human conversations with them. Because very often do you go to a film festival and it's like a networking hub. And I'm going to be super honest, that's extremely exhausting when everyone is asking you, what movie is yours? What's the next thing you're working on? When basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out how to get something out of meeting you. And if you're approaching it that way, you're not going to remember their name and you're not going to remember the experience you had with them. You're only going to remember how it is that you can take advantage of the fact that you met them. I think it's a lot better approach for me personally to actually like meet these other filmmakers, learn about them as people. Like, hey, like what do you do? Like, who are you? Like, I want to actually meet you as an individual. And to be honest, there are some people I've met at festivals when approaching them that way, and those are people who I actually think are super cool, who we've hung out with even outside of film circumstances. And you make longer lasting relationships that way. Even though the relationship is defined by this equal shared love of film, you get to actually know them as an individual now, and that's really cool. Outside of that, Aaron already covered everything of experiencing the film in a theater. There's nothing better than that, than being able to watch the thing that you created. It never gets old for me, because also I didn't make it. Like, I helped get it made, but those two are the ones who are the directors, and I get to watch what feels like, I know it's our movie, but what feels like their vision come to life. It's really cool to see. And also, just super quickly, like, there was, I know it's corny, but there was a familial relationship built up with the people on set because we went through that shit together. And because of that, whenever we get an opportunity to hang out with them again, there's nothing better than that. I would, let me not say that part. I think there's nothing better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably the most fun part, because like so much time has passed from the production of it that I could just watch it like a movie, and hearing people react the way that you wanted them to react, it's gold. It's gold. Like, being in the theater, I'm watching the people watching the movie, and when I when like the things that like we put in there actually work, I'm always pleasantly surprised. I mean, no way. Like, people are like doing the thing that I thought they would do. It's like, that's crazy. It's like,
like gasping at the time that you wanted them
yeah.
to, like talking to themselves. Like, dude, this is a movie. I would say that this is a movie that gets an audible reaction out of people, every time. And it's so satisfying.
Like, oh
yes.
Yeah. And then you get to party with people. It's like, it's fun. You get to enjoy like your thing. That's like the best part of it.
Yeah, be human, man. If you're being human at a festival, you're gonna stand out from all the robots.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I need to definitely talk to more people on festivals.
Yeah,
stay in my zone with my friends.
That's usually something that we've talked about.
We had to do that.
You know, I was with you. I didn't really talk to anyone else.
Yeah.
I was with my friends. It's so strange, because I'm the kind of person that I like to be with a lot of people or with none. Yeah. I just with few. It's just strange.
We are very similar to that. I think what helps is find some common ground outside of film. What you'll notice outside of film festivals, especially the local ones, especially for people who are making up and coming short films, is there are circles of people, you know, just like sharing a cigarette or sharing a drink or something, like just have a human moment with somebody. You know, just go up to somebody like, hey, this is my name, I made this movie, I saw that you made this movie, like I just wanted to introduce myself. You know, either you like their movie or you don't like their movie. You don't have to talk about that. It's a thing where it's just like, you know, I'm very interested in just you as an individual, because now we're sharing this space together, and I know I went through a world of shit to get to this point, so it must mean the same thing that you did too. Like, let's talk horror stories or something like that, and it's you get a lot more out of it, man. That's the whole point.
People
just
are gonna
building up a
remember you
community.
more.
Building up a community. It's the only way that you do it, is just by talking.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you exactly the question you don't like them to ask you, but
sure.
What's next?
Yeah, I think for us, rather than talking about something specific or like a specific project, it's very much, we have made it very public that what we're trying to do is we're always trying to take that next step with what it is that we're doing. So now that we've done a short budgeted award-winning short, which we're very lucky to say, it stands to reason that we feel that we're very much ready to make a lower budget feature film. Possibly something that can be distributed in a way, because if there's one thing I'm super confident in these two's ability, and you as well, it's their talent and it's their vision. And I think if we were given all the money in the world, we would be able to make something unbelievably good, considering the fact that we've made pretty good stuff, especially this last project I think is great for the amount of money that we made it with. So we're really focusing on making a feature film and learning about the business of feature filmmaking and distribution regarding it. You know, not just like, if there's one thing I'm super confident in, it's that we can make a great film. The one thing that I still feel like we have to learn about is how to get it, how to get other people to see it. You know, I think that's a big thing, talking to investors, talking to distributors, and talking to even streaming services, or, you know, however it is that we can go about it. But that's really where we're shifting our focus to.
That is great. So, right, guys, I think anything else you guys would like to say before we wrap the podcast?
Yeah, I wanted to bounce off of what you were saying there. So pretty much it's one of those things where, you know, it's probably going to be a long time before you see our next project, simply because we're trying to take the next step. You know, in every single project we do, we're trying to make it bigger. And this next step is going to be the biggest one. You know, we're going from a 15-minute movie to about an hour and a half movie. And just know that every single day we're working, you know, every single day we are putting in work. And just because you don't see us, you know, every day doesn't mean that we're not, you know, planning something. So it's going to be a long time, but it's going to be worth it when it does come out. And when we announce it.
But and it's good. Keep it quiet until you get it ready.
In the meantime, there will be plenty of time to see She'll Come Back as well, because we're still touring with that in film festivals. And I think it's really cool for these two things to be happening in conjunction with one another. You know, knowing, like, if you come to a festival and you see the project that we just finished and you get to experience that and hopefully get to enjoy it, in meeting us there as well, you also get to understand that we're just preparing for what the next thing is, and we're just using this film that we've made as a platform to jump off of into deeper waters for ourselves. And I feel very confident in the path that we're on right now.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a long battle, but it's what we signed up for, and it's simply my life's passion. I'm going to be doing this until the day I die. So simultaneously, I'm eager, but I'm also not in a rush, because I know that eventually I'm going to make my feature film, and eventually I'm going to make my second one and third one as well. So I want to go about it calculated, and every decision that we make, it's because all three of us thought about it, and it is very calculated, and we made it for a very specific reason. You know, we don't just do things to do things, and we don't just make films to make films. You know, we could just be eager to make our feature and make a feature for whatever money we could do it, but we don't make a movie unless we have something to say. So if we are gonna come out with a new project, it is because we have something to say. So that's what it is.
Yeah, it's very important.
Wow, that is a great ending.
It's very important.
That is a fantastic ending, bro. Scott,
thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, if someone wants to find you, where should they go? Like Instagram, TikTok, email?
Just look up for the aerial film signal in the night sky. But we are on Instagram, and we do have a TikTok.
Yeah.
And a website. Aerialfilms.com.
Yeah, if you guys want to find us... Hey guys, so all three of us, we got Gerald Payne, Aaron Gill, and Zachariah Gill. We are Aerial Films. That's our production company. You can find us on Instagram at aryl.films. You can find us on our website to see our portfolio at www.arylfilms.com. And look at our YouTube to see all of our past projects. Look at our Vimeo. And look out and follow us, because we are constantly having screenings of She'll Come Back. And we really want you to see it, and we want you to meet us, and we'll announce our next one on that platform as well.
It's going to be Flubber, too.
Awesome. Well, what a pleasure to have you here, guys. Thank you so much for coming. I'm very proud of the three of you, and I can't wait to see the next project.
Thank you so much for having us, man. We can't wait to let you know about it, because you're going to operate it.
That's right.